Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Konoha. I have all-knowing and all-powerful shop at the Naruto world. Chapter 1. Border area of the Fire Country. With a flash of white light, a simple building suddenly appeared. In front of the building stood two stone pillars, with words engraved on both sides. On the left side of the stone pillar was written, all-knowing and all-powerful. On the right side of the stone pillar was written, everything is available. And above the two stone pillars was a plaque with the words, as long as you have money. Inside the house, Yun Xiao looked at the things on the glass shelves around him with a confused look on his face. What did the system do for him? He hurried out of the house and looked at the dense woods around him. Yun Xiao's face was dark. There is no village in front and no store behind. Who comes here to buy things? Yun Xiao said speechlessly. Host, please be patient. Although my positioning is wrong, good wine needs no bush. Quote. Yun Xiao's mouth twitched. It turned out that the system had made a mistake in positioning, so the store was located in this desolate wilderness. I wish the host to open the store soon. How can I open a store in such a broken place? Yun Xiao said angrily. Yun Xiao is a time traveler. After his death in his previous life, he appeared in a dark space. It was unknown how long it took, but Yun Xiao was almost mentally collapsed in this environment. Suddenly, a voice came to his ears, are you willing to be the manager of the Wanji store and go to another world to sell things? This made Yun Xiao very excited. He could finally get rid of this place, so he immediately agreed. Please understand the placement of the goods in the store as soon as possible, said the system. Hearing this, Yun Xiao walked to the glass counter closest to him and looked at the goods inside curiously. There was a silver-white pistol on the counter. Oh, it's a Desert Eagle. Quote. He looked at the label under the counter, and when he saw the price, his expression was very exciting, as this gun made of gold. How dare they sell it for 3 million taels? He looked at the assault rifle next to him, which was even more expensive, 7 million taels. This row was full of hot weapons. Ling Yun took a look and found that the cheapest was a grenade, which only cost 300,000 taels each. He looked at another row of display cabinets. There were not many things on them, but Yun Xiao was completely dumbfounded. System, you come and tell me what the hell is this? Yun Xiao pointed at a product on the counter and said in disbelief. On the counter, there was a light stick about the length of a palm, with golden and transparent marble patterns all over the body. That's right, it was a light stick. How the hell can there be a light stick? Yun Xiao exclaimed. He said why the magic stick disappeared after Dagu defeated Gatanja, and it turned out that it came here. He subconsciously looked at the price. Well, it's reasonable. The price is very fair, only 30 million taels. This magic stick can only transform 3 times, and then it will turn into stone and need to be re-injected with light. It can transform 3 times after injecting light once, and the price is 30 million taels. Yun Xiao opened his mouth in shock, so this is still a consumable. Wow, if you calculate it this way, it will cost 10 million to transform once, and it can only transform for 3 minutes. Well, actually, the price is not that fair, Yun Xiao said embarrassedly. He cast his eyes on the goods behind him, but found a pile of silver-white suitcases on the shelf behind him. He walked to a box curiously and opened it. The box slowly opened, and there was a red metal watch inside. Yanlong, Yun Xiao said as he opened the next few boxes. It was indeed an armored warrior. He looked at the row of suitcases at the back. How many armors are there? He took a look at the price, which was also 30 million taels. Yun Xiao asked curiously. System, is this summoner also a consumable? It's not a consumable. Yun Xiao was a little surprised. Did the system have a change of heart? It actually doesn't limit the number of transformations. Isn't this a big loss? But the next words of the system let Yun Xiao know that the system is still the same system. Host, this is only the price of the summoner itself, but the 5 elements crystals and skill cards required for transformation are another price, and the summoner also needs regular maintenance. Yun Xiao gave a thumbs up. Good guy, you can obviously rob the money directly, but you still give the other party something. Host gets a commission every time he sells a product. Oh, it doesn't matter whether it's money or not. I just like selling things, Yun Xiao said with a sly smile. Host, I understand. Fire the border of the Fire Country. Several people wearing animal masks shuttled through the woods. The third Hokage has ordered that the traitor Orochimaru be captured and brought back to the village immediately. Orochimaru is so crazy that he uses his fellow villagers for human experiments. It is really unforgivable. This is already the border of the Fire Country. That guy may have left the Fire Country. Keep looking around. If you can't find him, return to the village to report. Yes, Captain. Several Anbu immediately dispersed. A few minutes later, they turned back. How is it, did you find him? I didn't see Orochimaru in the east. Nothing unusual in the south. Nothing was found in the north. He is worthy of being one of the 3 ninjas. He can run so fast even when he is injured. The leading Anbu whispered. In this case, I can only go back to report. Received. With that, several Anbu left quickly. Not long after they left, a pale-skinned, long-haired man staggered out from behind a tree. It was a close call. I was almost discovered, Orochimaru said lightly. After he was discovered doing human experiments in the village, the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen personally led people to arrest him, but facing his former beloved disciple, the third Hokage did not have the heart to do it, and finally Orochimaru successfully defected from the village. Originally, after leaving the village, no one could stop him if nothing unexpected happened. But an accident happened. The third Hokage actually raised a snake with a detonating talisman in its mouth next to Orochimaru. The snake suddenly exploded and tricked Orochimaru. Not to mention, the snake almost left Orochimaru behind, but fortunately Orochimaru finally got rid of all the pursuers without any danger. No one can stop me from exploring immortality, not even my mentor. Orochimaru glanced in the direction of Konoha and finally turned away. Since Orochimaru was seriously injured and there were no pursuers behind him, he slowed down his pace and thought about how to achieve immortality. As he walked, a building suddenly appeared in front of Orochimaru. There was a stone door in front of the building. He looked at the stone door curiously. There were words engraved on both sides of the stone door. All-knowing and all-powerful, everything, quite interesting. Orochimaru muttered. Then, he limped towards the building. There is a method to cultivate immortality. Yun Xiao exclaimed, the system is really awesome. Keep a low profile, as long as you have money, I will get you Pengu's blood. Tap, tap, tap. A sound of footsteps came from the door. Yun Xiao turned his head subconsciously and found a pale man walking into the store. There are really people coming to this kind of place. Yun Xiao muttered. As he said that, Yun Xiao walked to the door and said with a smile, Customer, what do you want to buy? Orochimaru looked at the young man in front of him. He looked only 17 or 18 years old, but the slogan outside the store was so arrogant. Is it true that you are omniscient and omnipotent and have everything you need? Orochimaru said hoarsely, staring at Yun Xiao with a pair of vertical pupils. If the other party dares to make false propaganda, Orochimaru doesn't mind letting the other party know how powerful he is. Yun Xiao was stunned at first, and then he remembered that it was the slogan on the stone door. Just as he was about to explain, the system suddenly spoke, Host, as long as the money is in place, this system can do anything. Yun Xiao swallowed the words on his lips, and he smiled and said, Of course, as long as there is money, anything can be done. Ling Xiao suddenly felt that the person in front of him looked familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen him. When Yun Xiao saw the forehead protector on Orochimaru's forehead, he remembered it. Is this Orochimaru? It turned out that he had traveled to the world of Naruto. He looked at the products in the store and raised his mouth. He didn't know what these products could change the ninja world into. After all, any product here can cause an uproar in the ninja world. With hot weapons, even civilians can fight against ninjas, not to mention other products. After all, the flying speed and distance of bullets are much farther than shuriken. If Uchiha Madara was resurrected and came back, he would definitely be shocked to see such a ninja world. Thinking of this, Yun Xiao couldn't help but laughed. When Orochimaru saw Yun Xiao's look, he was stunned. Why was he laughing for no reason? Did he fall into a trap? Yes, that was definitely the case. He said that how could someone open a store in this wilderness? This was definitely a trap set by Konoha. He didn't expect that he would fall into it. He looked around vigilantly, but did not find any shadow of the Anbu. He was a little confused. Was he overthinking? It was detected that the other party was seriously injured. The host can recommend treatment drugs to him. Yun Xiao came back to his senses and looked at Orochimaru. He found that the other party was indeed seriously injured. You are injured. Do you need treatment drugs? As he said that, he walked to a counter. After Orochimaru confirmed that there was no danger around, he followed Yun Xiao to the counter. Yun Xiao took out a beautiful little box from it. Orochimaru was a little excited. Could it be that there was some healing medicine in it? The box was slowly opened, and a green bean was seen in the box. Orochimaru was stunned on the spot. Boss, if I'm not mistaken, this is a bean. Yun Xiao smiled and said, this is not an ordinary bean, this is a senzu bean. This is the senzu bean in Dragon Ball. No matter how serious the injury is, as long as you eat it, you can immediately recover your injuries and physical strength. I didn't expect the system price to be only 200,000 taels, it's really too conscious. Orochimaru looked at it for a long time, and his mouth twitched. He felt that he was fooled. This is just an ordinary bean. Yun Xiao saw that Orochimaru didn't believe it, and smiled and said, you will know if it works after you eat it. If it doesn't work, you don't need to pay, but let me make it clear first, one senzu bean costs 200,000 taels. Orochimaru was a little surprised. He didn't expect a bean to be so expensive. However, he put the senzu bean into his mouth without hesitation. As one of the three ninjas, he can still afford this money. Crack. Orochimaru's mouth twitched. This taste was clearly that of ordinary beans. He decided to teach this kid who had played tricks on him time and time again a lesson. But when he swallowed the beans, he was stunned, because after eating the beans, his injuries were restored in just a few breaths, and his chakra, which had already reached the bottom, also returned to its peak. Orochimaru's breathing was a little rapid. He didn't expect that the beans were so amazing. This was much better than Tsunade's medical ninjutsu. He couldn't imagine that when both sides were seriously injured, one of them would instantly recover to its peak after eating a bean, which would definitely turn the tide of the battle. Orochimaru looked at Yun Xiao with fiery eyes, and he said excitedly, Boss, do you have any more beans? Yun Xiao expected that Orochimaru would definitely be unable to hold back after knowing the magical effects of the beans. As long as the money is in place, it's enough. Yun Xiao patted his chest and promised. Orochimaru immediately took out a scroll and opened it. When the smoke cleared, a pile of money appeared on the ground. Boss, this is 10 million taels, I want another 49 senzu beans. Orochimaru said anxiously. Don't be so anxious, I'll show you other products, what if you like them? Yun Xiao said. Orochimaru came to his senses, and the medicines that the other party took out were all top-notch, so what about other things? Orochimaru looked at the densely packed glass display cabinets around him, his eyes full of heat. In his opinion, everything in this cabinet is a treasure. Please be sure to take me to visit. Orochimaru said sincerely. Okay. Yun Xiao took Orochimaru to the hot weapons area. Yun Xiao felt that Orochimaru, as one of the few ninjas in Hokage who advocated science, would definitely be interested in hot weapons. Yun Xiao smiled and said, how many meters can the shuriken you threw fly in 1 second? Orochimaru didn't expect Yun Xiao to suddenly ask him this question. The speed of the shuriken is related to the strength of the ninja himself. The shuriken I threw can fly about 150 meters in 1 second. Yun Xiao was a little surprised. He didn't expect Orochimaru to really know. He is worthy of being a scientist in the ninja world. Yun Xiao then took out the Desert Eagle from the counter, loaded the magazine, and then loaded it. Orochimaru looked at the pistol in Yun Xiao's hand curiously, wondering what it was. Do you know what the firing rate of this gun is? Yun Xiao asked. Orochimaru shook his head subconsciously. He had never seen such a thing, so how could he know its firing rate? Follow me, Yun Xiao said, and walked outside. Orochimaru followed immediately. Just in time, Yun Xiao saw a rabbit jumping not far away, and the distance was just within the range of the Desert Eagle. The firing rate of this gun is 400 meters per second. Orochimaru looked at the pistol in Yun Xiao's hand with some surprise. He didn't expect that the firing rate of this iron lump was so fast. But how should it be used? It shouldn't be thrown out as a shuriken, right? Bang! Yun Xiao suddenly pulled the trigger, and before Orochimaru could react, the rabbit not far away suddenly exploded. Orochimaru saw the miserable state of the rabbit and widened his eyes in horror. He only saw a flash of fire suddenly coming out of the muzzle, and then the rabbit exploded like a watermelon. Yunxiao put the gun on safety and looked at Orochimaru with a smile. How is it? Is this gun powerful enough? Orochimaru looked at the gun in Yunxiao's hand and swallowed his saliva subconsciously. This is more than good, it is simply a top-level weapon. He didn't even see clearly what flew out of the pistol, and the rabbit suddenly exploded. That's right, it exploded suddenly, and it broke into dozens of pieces in an instant. The more Orochimaru thought about it, the more scared he became. If Yunxiao had aimed the gun at his head just now, then his head would definitely break into several pieces. After all, although ninjas can mobilize chakra and their physical fitness has been enhanced to a certain extent, they are not strong enough to withstand bullets. Moreover, this gun is not only fast, but also powerful. The shuriken he threw out could only kill the rabbit instantly, but it could not make the rabbit explode instantly. Orochimaru looked at the gun in Yunxiao's hand in shock. What a terrible destructive power it must be. Orochimaru felt that even if the god of ninja, Senju Hashirama, came, he would die if he was hit in the head. This gun is simply a divine weapon, fast and powerful, it is simply the best choice for killing and robbing. May I ask the boss, how much does this gun cost? Orochimaru asked cautiously. He subconsciously touched the ninja bag, wondering if his savings were enough. Yunxiao smiled and said, this gun is called Desert Eagle, and it only costs 3 million taels. What? 3 million taels? Orochimaru said loudly. It's not that he thinks it's too expensive, but that he thinks it's too cheap. He originally thought that this kind of weapon would cost tens of millions of taels, but he didn't expect it to cost only 3 million taels. Boss, I want this gun. Orochimaru said anxiously. No problem, I'll take you to see other weapons. Yunxiao said and walked into the house with Orochimaru. Yunxiao took out an assault rifle from the next door and explained, this is an assault rifle. It can fire continuously at a rate of 700 meters per second and has an effective range of 400 meters, which means it can hit anything within 400 meters. Orochimaru looked at the assault rifle in Yunxiao's hand with a fiery look. He now understood that everything in this store is rare and top-notch goods in the world. As long as your wallet is fat enough, you can buy everything you want. Boss, how much is this assault rifle? Orochimaru asked. No lie, 7 million taels. Yunxiao said. I bought it. Orochimaru said excitedly. Yunxiao handed the assault rifle and Desert Eagle to Orochimaru and taught him how to use them enthusiastically. After all, Orochimaru is a big customer and must be treated well. After Orochimaru knew how to use the firearms correctly, he couldn't wait to go outside. Soon, gunshots were heard outside. Yunxiao stood outside the door curiously and looked around. Unexpectedly, Orochimaru got the hang of it so quickly. After firing dozens of bullets, Orochimaru found the feeling of shooting. After that, every time Orochimaru pulled the trigger, a bird fell from the sky. As expected of a ninja scientist, this learning ability is fast. Yunxiao said with emotion. Why did Yunxiao dare to stand at the door? Wasn't he afraid that Orochimaru would accidentally fire and hit him? Yunxiao was of course afraid, so he just stood at the door and didn't go out. Because the conscience system was afraid that someone wanted to kill and rob, for his safety, he was invincible as long as he stayed in the store, immune to all damage, and could be triggered when attacked. Therefore, he didn't feel scared when he recognized the other party as Orochimaru, but actively introduced the product. Outside the house, Orochimaru looked at the assault rifle in his hand, his hands were shaking with excitement. I didn't expect that what the boss said was true. This is really a point-and-shoot system, Orochimaru murmured. Moreover, this is different from shuriken, which requires years of practice, but he only practiced the gun for a while, and he could almost hit anything within 200 meters. After Orochimaru had used up all the bullets in the gun, he returned to the store. Boss, I want to buy 100 bullets. As he said that, Orochimaru opened another scroll, which contained 1 million taels. One bullet costs 10,000 taels, and this is just enough to buy 100 bullets. Yunxiao walked in front of the pile of money, and in the shocked eyes of Orochimaru, Yunxiao just waved his hand, and the pile of money disappeared abruptly. This was of course done by the system. When Yun Xiao saw his commission, his mouth twitched. This system is too black-hearted, right? It actually gave him a commission of 0.1%, and he only got 1,000 taels out of the 1 million taels. But Yun Xiao's actions just now were like an immortal in Orochimaru's eyes. Yun Xiao took out 100 bullets, put them in a box, and handed them to Orochimaru. Is there anything else you want? Yun Xiao asked expectantly. Orochimaru is a scientist, and every time he conducts research, he spends tens of millions or even hundreds of millions. Therefore, Yun Xiao concluded that Orochimaru definitely has money. When Orochimaru heard Yun Xiao's words, he suddenly lowered his head in silence. Yun Xiao was a little curious. What happened to Orochimaru? Wasn't he fine just now? After a long while, Orochimaru raised his head, and a complex light flashed in his eyes, like a mixture of hope and despair. Boss, I want to ask a question. If I offend you, please forgive my rudeness. Orochimaru whispered, with a hint of nervousness in his voice. Please ask, Yun Xiao said with a smile. Orochimaru took a deep breath, and then slowly asked, Boss, do you have something that can make people immortal? Yun Xiao was slightly startled. He didn't expect Orochimaru to ask such a question. But, Yun Xiao soon remembered that in the original work, Orochimaru seemed to have been pursuing immortality. Finally, he invented the immortal reincarnation, and changed his name from Snake Uncle to Snake Aunt. Yun Xiao's wandering in the sky was silence in Orochimaru's eyes. A trace of disappointment flashed in Orochimaru's eyes. Even the boss, you don't have anything that can make people immortal. This made Orochimaru begin to doubt his life. Does immortality really not exist? Yun Xiao came back to his senses after hearing what Orochimaru said. He smiled and said, I said before that I have everything here, and immortality is of course among them. Orochimaru widened his eyes in disbelief. He didn't expect that Yun Xiao really had products that could make people immortal. Orochimaru said excitedly, Boss, please sell it to me. I am willing to pay any price. Yun Xiao smiled and waved his hand. No, as long as I have money, I will say it first. Immortality is a very expensive thing. As he said that, Yun Xiao walked to a glass counter in the distance. Orochimaru didn't listen to what Yun Xiao said later. His mind is now full of immortality. I didn't expect that the boss really has a method for immortality. Yun Xiao took out a yellow book from the counter and handed it to Orochimaru. Take a look at this one. If you don't like it, I'll change it for you. Orochimaru carefully took the book. On the yellow cover were 3 simple and ancient characters, The Secret of Immortality. He looked at the title of the book, and his heartbeat accelerated involuntarily, and his breathing became rapid. The Secret of Immortality, Orochimaru whispered softly, as if he saw the road to immortality he had always dreamed of. He was so excited that his hands trembled a little, and he gently stroked the book as if it was the most precious treasure in the world. Boss, how much does this book cost? Orochimaru's voice was filled with uncontrollable excitement. Yun Xiao glanced at the price and said, This is just an entry-level technique, only 15 million taels. Orochimaru was relieved and secretly glad that he could afford it. But then, Orochimaru couldn't help asking, is there a higher level technique? Quote. He couldn't believe it. This, eternal life secret, was already amazing enough. He didn't expect that there was an even more amazing technique than it. Of course, this is just an entry-level technique. It doesn't even have a grade. The grades of techniques are divided according to the heaven and earth. The highest is the heaven-level technique. Yun Xiao explained. Orochimaru's eyes were full of yearning. He decided to buy these techniques even if he had to sell everything he had. Yun Xiao saw Orochimaru's thoughts and advised him earnestly, on the path of cultivation, you must not be too ambitious. You must know that haste makes waste. Only by being down to earth and taking one step at a time can you embark on the path of immortality and finally achieve immortality. Orochimaru was shocked when he heard this. He quickly gathered his mind and asked humbly, Thank you for your advice, boss. I will keep it in mind. I wonder what the difference is between these different levels of techniques. Quote. Yun Xiao smiled slightly and patiently answered, Different levels of martial arts have different powers and effects. Heaven-level martial arts are the most powerful, and practitioners can comprehend the profound truth of immortality from them, Earth-level martial arts are second, but they also contain great potential. Zon-level martial arts are third, and Huang-level martial arts are the most basic. However, no matter what level of martial arts, as long as they are practiced properly, they can achieve great things. The key lies in the practitioner's own efforts and understanding. Quote. Orochimaru listened in fascination, with a firm light flashing in his eyes. He knew that his goal was to achieve immortality, and he had made up his mind to practice well after returning and strive to achieve immortality as soon as possible. Thank you, boss, for clearing up my doubts, Orochimaru said gratefully. Yunxiao took out another book from the cabinet. It's not enough to practice by yourself, you also need the assistance of elixirs. Quote. After saying that, he handed the book in his hand to Orochimaru. Orochimaru took the book curiously and looked at it carefully. He saw 4 big characters written on the book, Compendium of Pills. Boss, what is this? Orochimaru asked doubtfully, his face full of curiosity. This is a secret book that teaches you how to refine pills. It records in detail the formulas and refining methods of various pills. Different pills have different effects, such as the longevity pill that can prolong life, the powerful pill that enhances physical strength, and so on. These pills are of great help in improving strength and cultivation speed. Yunxiao explained patiently. He knew that Orochimaru would definitely be interested. Sure enough, Orochimaru asked excitedly, Boss, how much is it? I want it. This book of pills is very complete, and almost lists all the methods of refining pills in the world of cultivation. Yunxiao raised 4 fingers, so it's more expensive, 40 million taels. Quote. Orochimaru said without hesitation, I'll buy it. He took out a few scrolls and handed them to Yunxiao. Yunxiao was also stunned. He knew that Orochimaru was rich, but he didn't expect him to be so rich. This cost more than 60 million taels in total. Yunxiao took the scroll and took it away after the system checked that there was no problem. Great, Yunxiao said with a smile. Orochimaru kept staring at Yunxiao's movements, but still couldn't see how the scroll disappeared. He licked his lips and asked curiously, Boss, how did you make the scroll disappear instantly? Yunxiao didn't know how to explain it. He couldn't say it was the system's fault, right? Just when he didn't know how to explain it, Yunxiao suddenly thought of something and his eyes lit up. This is a storage ring. Do you want to buy it? Quote. As he spoke, Yunxiao walked to a counter in the distance and took out a ring. Orochimaru looked at the simple ring in Yunxiao's hand curiously. This is a storage ring. It has 20 cubic meters of space. It can store anything except living things. It is much better than a storage scroll, Yunxiao explained. Orochimaru agreed. Nodding, Boss, how much? Yunxiao looked at the price and was dumbfounded, so expensive. He looked at the long string of zeros on the label, rubbed his eyes, and counted several times. Well, it's a bit expensive, 300 million taels, Yunxiao said embarrassedly. Orochimaru opened his mouth in shock after hearing the price, hee. Actually, the storage scroll is also very useful. Let's not talk about this. It's useless to buy the pill formula without the pill furnace and medicinal materials, Yunxiao said. Orochimaru was stunned. Yes, without the things and materials to refine, how can he refine the pill? Yunxiao took out a pill furnace and put it on the counter. This is a basic pill furnace. You are a beginner and you can't refine high-level pills in a short time. This one is enough. I'll sell it to you for 8 million taels. Orochimaru didn't pay as quickly as before. Before, one scroll contained 10 million taels. Now he found several scrolls to take out 8 million taels. Tell me what kind of elixir you want to make, and I'll get the materials for you, Yunxiao said. Orochimaru nodded and opened the Compendium of Elixirs. He originally wanted to buy all the basic medicinal materials, but due to limited funds, he finally chose the longevity pill and the power pill. This is the material for the longevity pill, 2 million taels. This is the elixir of the power pill, 1 million taels. Yunxiao handed the 2 materials to Orochimaru. Orochimaru didn't expect the elixir to be so cheap, and took out a few scrolls and handed them to Yunxiao. Boss, give me 3 more senzu beans. Orochimaru flipped through the scrolls for a long time and finally took out 1.5 million taels. Yunxiao turned around and took out 2 senzu beans, put them in a cloth bag and handed them to Orochimaru. Brother, You didn't pay for the senzu beans you ate before, so I only gave you 2. You spent so much in our store. I really want to waive the money for the senzu beans, but unfortunately our store is a small business and I can't give you a discount. Yun Xiao said with great sorrow. Orochimaru's mouth twitched. All his property of more than 70 million taels was handed over here, and you still told me that it was a small business. Orochimaru took the cloth bag from Yun Xiao and carefully put it on his waist. Yun Xiao automatically ignored Orochimaru's speechless expression, and he smiled and said, "Brother, what's your name?" "Boss, my name is Orochimaru. My name is Yun Xiao." Yun Xiao stretched out his hand. Orochimaru didn't expect such a mysterious boss to be willing to shake hands with him. He was delighted, and quickly stretched out a hand to hold Yun Xiao's hand tightly, and said excitedly, "Boss Yun, nice to meet you, nice to meet you." Orochimaru was ecstatic, and didn't expect that he could meet such a person. It was really a blessing. After the two let go of each other's hands, Yun Xiao rubbed his hands and said enthusiastically, "Orochimaru, do you need anything else?" After Orochimaru heard Yun Xiao's words, an awkward smile appeared on his face, and he shook his head, indicating that he didn't need other items. In fact, it was not that he didn't want to buy more items, but because his wallet was empty. The 70 million taels were all his property, and now he was penniless. Although he was very eager for Yun Xiao's items, reality made it impossible for him to continue buying. Yun Xiao saw Orochimaru's embarrassment. He smiled and patted Orochimaru on the shoulder, and said earnestly, "Orochimaru, maybe in your previous worldview, only strength is the most important. But here, money is omnipotent. As long as you have enough funds, no matter what you need, I can help you get it." Hearing this, Orochimaru felt a strong desire to make money. There was a gleam in his eyes, as if he saw infinite possibilities. Before this, he had never been so eager for wealth. When he defected from Konoha village, he only took away research materials, but ignored the most precious thing, money. If he could realize this at the time, perhaps he would sneak into the Hokage building and try to get some wealth. After all, the daimyo of the Land of Fire provides Konoha village with billions of financial grants every year, and these are all resources he can use. If he had sneaked in at the beginning, he would definitely be able to bring out several hundred million. Orochimaru's eyes lit up. It's not too late to go back now. He has already thought about it and decided to find a time to sneak back to the village and get some money. He can also borrow some money from Jiraiya. That guy has completed so many S-level tasks, and he must have a lot of money. Thinking of this, Orochimaru nodded in agreement. Money is indeed very important. Yun Xiao smiled and said, "Life is just 2 words, make money." Orochimaru shook his head. "No, it's 4 words, immortality and making money." Yes, immortality and making money," Yun Xiao echoed. After all, Orochimaru is a big customer, what he said is right. "So you have to work hard to make money and come to my place to spend, so that you can achieve immortality as soon as possible," Yun Xiao said. Crazy Pua. Yun Xiao thought happily that as long as Orochimaru kept making money and continued to spend money here, he would soon be able to live a life of sleeping until he woke up naturally and counting money until his hands cramped. "I understand, Boss Yun. I will definitely work hard to make money," Orochimaru said firmly, and then said goodbye and left. After all, he was penniless now, and there was no point in staying here. It would be better to go back to comprehend the secret of longevity and refine pills. So, Orochimaru held the alchemy furnace tightly with both hands, an assault rifle on his back, a desert eagle tied to his calf, 2 martial arts secrets in his arms, and a small cloth bag on his waist, and walked out of the store in a swagger. Yun Xiao stood at the door of the store, looking at Orochimaru's back as he left, and couldn't help muttering to himself, "Is this style right in the Naruto world? The land of rain. This is a country where it rains all year round." Somewhere, suddenly, a pile of papers flew in the air, as if they had life, slowly gathering in one direction. After a while, they formed a human figure, and finally turned into a blue-haired girl. She stood there quietly, looking at the man in front of her. "Pain, White Zetsu just sent a message that Orochimaru has defected from Konoha," the blue-haired girl said calmly. The man who was staring at the rain village turned around slowly after hearing the news. He was wearing a black robe with red cloud patterns embroidered on his clothes, which was particularly eye-catching. However, the most eye-catching thing was his peculiar eyes, which were actually shaped like onions. These eyes gave people a mysterious and deep feeling, which made people want to explore the mystery. If Yunxiao was there, he would definitely exclaim, Samsara I, pain. Conan, the organization is in urgent need of people now, got it? Conan responded, and her body instantly turned into countless white papers, and then quickly flew away from the rain country. Soon after Conan left, a strong vortex suddenly appeared in the space, and a mysterious man wearing a yellow single-eye mask slowly emerged. The man stood in the dark, with a gloomy aura all over his body, which made people shudder. There is a bounty hunter named Kakuzu in the gold exchange near the Fire Country. He once tried to assassinate Hashirama Senju. Although his strength is average, you can consider recruiting him into the Akatsuki organization. The masked man said in a cold voice. Pain stared at the masked man who suddenly appeared, and after a moment of silence, he finally said, I know. Madara, quote. It's good to know. After saying that, a vortex began to appear in the masked man's right eye, and his body gradually became blurred and finally disappeared into the air. After the masked man disappeared, Pain still stood there motionless, his eyes always fixed on the direction he left, as if he was lost in thought. After a long time, he murmured to himself in a low voice, is he really Uchiha Madara? When he was desperate, the man who claimed to be Uchiha Madara suddenly appeared, claiming that he could create a peaceful ninja world. Humph, I hope he didn't lie to me. Pain snorted coldly. The border of the Land of Fire. A man with sutures on his limbs, a mask on his face, and a rebel forehead protector on his head led ahead happily towards a place. This person is Kakuzu mentioned by Madara. Kakuzu picked up the head in his hand and looked at it carefully. He nodded with satisfaction, it's him, I can't be wrong. I didn't expect that such a weak person would be offered a reward of 1 million. Quote, I made 1 million today, and I have to make more tomorrow. He said to himself, and then walked towards the money exchange happily. Suddenly, Kakuzu stopped and asked in confusion, when did this store open here? I don't remember it being here before. He stood there, staring at the strange store in front of him, full of curiosity. This store exuded a mysterious atmosphere, and he noticed at a glance that it was written on the plaque, as long as you have money, it's fine. So arrogant, it seems that you are quite rich. As he said that, Kakuzu walked into the store. Kakuzu walked into the store with his head in his hand, and he looked around the glass counters curiously. He was dazzled by so many products, and the products in the counters were all things Kakuzu had never seen before. Although he didn't know him, since there were so many strange things in the store, it meant that the owner of this store must be very rich. Kakuzu decided to observe how strong the owner was. If he was not as good as him, he would definitely choose to kill people for treasures. Yunxiao, who was sleeping on a recliner, opened his eyes when he heard footsteps. I just slept for a while, and I didn't expect someone to come. Yunxiao yawned. Welcome, is there anything you need? Yunxiao was startled when he stood up and saw the person coming. Why did this guy come in with a head, bloody and scary? He was stunned when he saw the other person's appearance. Did he poke a hornet's nest of the Akatsuki organization today? Why are all the people coming from the Akatsuki organization? It seemed that he was at the border of the Land of Fire, and there was still a certain distance from the Land of Rain. But he realized that Kakuzu had not yet joined the Akatsuki organization after he saw that he was not wearing the uniform of the Akatsuki organization. Kakuzu looked at Yunxiao coldly and said, are you the manager of this store? In Kakuzu's perception, the boy in front of him did not have any chakra fluctuations, just a civilian. But Kakuzu did not take action directly. Can the person who dared to open a store in such a wilderness be an ordinary person? Anyway, Kakuzu was unwilling to believe it. As an antique who has lived from the Warring States period to the present, he still has this bit of vigilance. What if he took action and 100 or 80 jonin rushed out from all around? Yunxiao smiled and said, I am the manager. Is there anything you need? I have everything here. Kakuzu saw Yunxiao's confident look and immediately became interested, really have everything? Of course. Yunxiao patted his chest and promised. Give me 100 million taels. Kakuzu said. What the hell? Yun Xiao was stunned on the spot. Did Kakuzu think he was a bank? Customer, stop joking. This is a store. I sell things, Yun Xiao explained. Kakuzu threw the head at Yun Xiao's feet. He twisted his neck and said, but I never pay for things. Yun Xiao's forehead was bulging with veins. He stared at Kakuzu and gritted his teeth and said, are you here to cause trouble? After observing for so long, Kakuzu had confirmed that there were no ninja ambushes around, and the boy in front of him was just an ordinary person. He sneered and said, hand over all your money, and I can consider leaving you a whole body. Kakuzu felt that he had picked up a great bargain. He didn't expect to meet a big fat sheep in such a wilderness. He felt that the things in the store were quite high-end and could definitely be sold at a good price. Since the stinky boy in front of him didn't say anything, he would kill him and look for it slowly. Thinking of this, Kakuzu took out a sharp kunai expressionlessly and wiped it on Yun Xiao's neck without hesitation. The host is detected to be in danger, and all attributes of the host have been strengthened by 10,000,000%. The cold mechanical voice of the system suddenly sounded. After his own attributes were enhanced, Yun Xiao felt that he was terribly strong now. Kakuzu's movements were 1,000,000 times slower in his eyes. He walked forward leisurely and slapped Kakuzu. In Kakuzu's eyes, the boy in front of him suddenly disappeared. Before he could react, he felt that his head was hit by a huge force. His head turned hundreds of times rapidly in an instant, and then the whole person flew out like a cannonball, hit the wall heavily, and then fell to the ground and didn't know whether he was dead or alive. But the seemingly ordinary wall was hit so hard, but there was no crack at all. It was worthy of being a product of the system. The quality and sturdiness were really awesome. Yun Xiao looked at Kakuzu lying on the ground for a long time without reaction, and suddenly panicked. He remembered that Kakuzu had 5 hearts, so he should have 5 lives. How did he die immediately? Yun Xiao seemed to have suddenly thought of something, and his eyes widened in horror. Could it be that Kakuzu only had 1 heart at that time, and he had not had time to replenish his heart? Kakuzu must not die. This guy is very rich, and he is his big customer, he must not die. Oh, right, senzu beans. Yun Xiao slapped his head and hurried to get the senzu beans. After Yun Xiao left, Kakuzu, who was lying on the ground, dared to open his eyes. He looked at Yun Xiao's back with fear. He didn't expect that the seemingly ordinary boy in front of him would slap him to death. If he didn't have 5 hearts, he would have died here today. This guy is even more terrifying than Hashirama Senju. Thinking back to the past, he received an order from the top leaders of Takigakure village, Kakuzu, go and kill Hashirama Senju. Young Kakuzu pointed at himself and said in disbelief, me? Yes, as long as you succeed, you will be the hero of Takigakure. Just like that, young Kakuzu accepted the mission. Land of Fire. Kakuzu squatted on a tree, looking at the 2 figures in the distance. As the one in white clothes the god of ninja. Young Kakuzu's voice was trembling. Young Kakuzu took out 3 shurikens from his ninja tool bag and threw them at Hashirama Senju with trembling. Shuriken, you must hit it. Young Kakuzu prayed. Hashirama Senju felt something flying and asked curiously, what is that? Uchiha Madara glanced at it, shuriken. Oh, it turned out to be shuriken, huh? How could there be shuriken? Hashirama Senju was stunned. Hashirama Senju reacted and said excitedly, Madara, look at me catching the shuriken with my bare hands. Uchiha Madara did not speak, because he saw that the 3 shuriken could not fly to their side after opening the Sharingan. Swish, swish, swish. Hashirama Senju was ready to catch the shuriken with his bare hands. Puff, puff, puff. Hashirama Senju was stunned, because the 3 shurikens, just as Uchiha Madara thought, just fell in front of them. In the distance, Kakuzu on the tree was shocked. The mission failed, worthy of being the god of ninja. With that, Kakuzu turned around and ran without hesitation. Hashirama, the little mouse ran away. Uchiha Madara said softly. Hashirama Senju clapped his hands when he heard the words, and a wooden clone suddenly appeared. Let the wooden clone play with him, ahahaha. Senju Hashirama laughed with his hands on his hips. Uchiha Madara held his forehead helplessly. How could his friend's brain be abnormal? The young man Kakuzu, who was walking through the woods, heard a sound behind him, and turned back to look, and was scared to death. Senju Hashirama actually chased him. Then he was quickly caught and beaten up by the wooden clone. Fortunately, Senju Hashirama was kind-hearted and did not want his life. Thinking back to the present, Kakuzu looked at Yunxiao in fear in the distance. This guy was much more terrifying than Senju Hashirama. Yunxiao quickly took out a senzu bean from the cabinet and ran to Kakuzu. Kakuzu saw Yunxiao suddenly turn around and was so scared that he quickly closed his eyes and didn't even dare to breathe. Just kidding, if this guy found out that he was pretending to be dead, he couldn't imagine what kind of torture he would suffer. Yunxiao squatted on the ground and put his hand in front of Kakuzu's nose, no breathing, really dead. He felt that in this situation, there was no need to feed Kakuzu senzu beans. Yunxiao definitely didn't feed him senzu beans because he saw that Kakuzu had died and didn't want to waste a senzu bean. Yunxiao is not that kind of person. Well, definitely not. Host, how could you do this? Yunxiao was startled by the sudden sound of the system. He didn't expect that he would be discovered for doing bad things secretly. How could I stand by and watch someone die without helping? Am I that kind of person? Yunxiao laughed. As he said that, he violently opened Kakuzu's mouth and stuffed the senzu bean in. Kakuzu felt that his mouth was about to be torn open by Yunxiao, and he was terrified. I didn't expect this guy to have a habit of whipping corpses. Is he a pervert? Although Kakuzu's mouth was torn and it hurt, he didn't dare to show it. If the other party noticed, he would be miserable. Suddenly, he felt that Yunxiao seemed to stuff something into his mouth. Kakuzu was a little scared. What did this guy eat for him? Yunxiao found that the senzu beans stayed in Kakuzu's mouth and he couldn't swallow them. He was a little confused. So, Yunxiao hesitated for a moment, suddenly grabbed Kakuzu's head and chin, and then opened and closed them frantically. You eat it for me. Crack, crack. Kakuzu was about to cry, and his tongue was about to be bitten off by his teeth. Why is this guy so perverted? Kakuzu regretted it very much. If he had known earlier, he would not have come in. He knew that those who could open a store in such a remote place were definitely not ordinary people. Now it's good, I fell into the hands of the other party. In the process, Kakuzu finally swallowed the senzu beans. Yunxiao threw Kakuzu aside and wiped the non-existent sweat on his forehead. Finally, I ate it. Kakuzu's head hit the ground, although it hurt, but he was very happy. This guy is finally tired of playing. Can he throw his corpse out? At this moment, Kakuzu was surprised to find that the wound on his mouth caused by Yunxiao was healed immediately. The sudden change did not make Kakuzu happy, but filled his heart with fear. This guy is really a pervert. He actually played with the corpse and then treated it. Could it be that he wanted to collect his corpse and torture it day and night? Thinking of this, Kakuzu's body trembled subconsciously. But Yunxiao did not notice Kakuzu's movements. Now he just felt that he had lost 500,000 in vain. If I had known, I wouldn't have given him food. Yunxiao suddenly remembered that although Kakuzu was dead, his money was still there. With Kakuzu's greedy personality, he must have a lot of money. He only lost one senzu bean and could get all of Kakuzu's property. He felt that he had made a fortune. Kakuzu's property was definitely much more than Orochimaru's. Maybe he could find a few small targets. Thinking of this, Yunxiao's breathing began to become rapid. He squatted in front of Kakuzu and began to slowly explore Kakuzu's corpse, fearing that he would miss a detail. Kakuzu felt Yunxiao stroking his thigh, and subconsciously tensed his body. Yunxiao was a little confused, so the corpse stiffened so quickly. No matter, continue. Kakuzu was almost crying with fear. This guy was not an ordinary pervert. He had seen many perverts in his life, but no one was more perverted than Yunxiao. This fool actually wanted to violate the corpse. But even so, Kakuzu didn't move at all. After all, he was just pretending to be a corpse. If he was discovered by the other party, he would really become a corpse. Yunxiao checked the front but found nothing. He was a little surprised. Could it be the back? Thinking of this, Yunxiao turned Kakuzu over. Kakuzu buried his face in the ground, his eyes closed and his teeth clenched. Is it coming again? I don't know if it hurts. Yunxiao put his hand on Kakuzu's waist. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt that Kakuzu's body had moved just now. He observed carefully and was relieved immediately. It's the first time to do this kind of thing, so it's inevitable to be a little nervous. Don't scare yourself. Tears flowed from the corners of Kakuzu's eyes. He roared in his heart. Not everything needs to be tried. Yunxiao saw a bulge on the back of Kakuzu's clothes, and his eyes lit up, and he quickly pulled Kakuzu's clothes away. Is it coming again? I hope he can be gentler. Found it, Yunxiao said in surprise. As he said that, he took out the storage scroll pinned on Kakuzu's back. The frightened Kakuzu did not notice that his storage scroll had been taken away. Kakuzu found that the other party suddenly stopped moving, and he was a little curious, but he didn't dare to open his eyes. Why did he stop at the critical moment? Kakuzu wondered. He suddenly understood something and was a little excited. It turns out that this kid is not good at that. No wonder he would do that to a corpse. Kakuzu was relieved immediately. It's good that he can't do that. It's good that he can't do that. At least his chrysanthemum was saved. He's over 70 years old. If he can't even protect his chrysanthemum at such an age, if it gets out, he might as well die. Tens of millions. Shit, so much money. Yunxiao exclaimed. Hearing the money, Kakuzu subconsciously touched his waist, but found it empty. Here is the accumulation of 1 or 2 heads over the years. This is all his hard-earned money. I didn't expect that he was robbed at such an old age. In Kakuzu's worldview, you can insult him, but you can't rob him of his money. Kakuzu immediately threw the difference in strength between the two sides to the wind, and he roared angrily, "Give me the money back quickly." Quote. Yunxiao, who was sitting on the ground happily counting money, was almost scared to death when he heard Kakuzu's roar. Yunxiao turned his head and saw Kakuzu looking at him angrily. At this time, Yunxiao was sitting on a pile of money, and he was holding a thick stack of banknotes in his hand. Yunxiao was a little embarrassed. Wasn't the other party dead? How come he is alive now? Yunxiao was considering whether to send the other party away with 2 punches. Then, he immediately shook his head. He was a 3-good youth in the 21st century. How could he do such a thing as bullying the weak? However, Yunxiao was confident that Kakuzu would definitely hand the money to him obediently. Ahem, you're not dead. Yunxiao said awkwardly. I was dead originally, but I came back to life when I heard you take my money. Kakuzu said angrily. Yunxiao's mouth twitched, and he hurriedly walked out of the pile of money. Seeing Kakuzu still staring at him, Yunxiao was a little confused. Didn't he already walk out? Why was he still staring at him? Yunxiao followed Kakuzu's gaze and found that he was still holding a thick stack of banknotes in his hand. Haha, he threw the money into the pile of money awkwardly. After Yunxiao stood up, Kakuzu rushed into the pile of money. A large number of black tentacles suddenly appeared behind him, and he counted the banknotes frantically, fearing that a few were missing. Walala, Kakuzu's speed of counting money amazed Yunxiao. No wonder he would become the finance minister of Akatsuki in the future. Soon, a large stack of money was neatly placed in front of Kakuzu. Yunxiao was so jealous when he saw the pile of money. These were all white banknotes. Oh my, oh my, oh my. Yunxiao screamed in his heart. He must trick Kakuzu into spending the money in the store. Yunxiao has decided to let Kakuzu buy the best and the most expensive ones later. The tentacles behind Kakuzu gradually retracted into his body. He turned his head and looked at Yunxiao with a vigilant face. Yunxiao looked at Kakuzu's nervous look and quickly slowed down his tone. Brother, don't be afraid. As he said that, Yunxiao hurried to the door and closed the door, fearing that Kakuzu would suddenly run away with the money. Click. Kakuzu looked at the locked door with a look of despair. He couldn't beat him, and he couldn't run away. It seems that Kakuzu will die here today. Kakuzu looked at the pile of money on the ground and felt unwilling. The greatest sorrow in life is that the money is still there after the person dies. The biggest pain is that the person is still alive but the money is gone. But when he saw Yunxiao's money-grubbing look just now, Kakuzu knew that he would not only lose his life, but also his money. This is the real despair. Brother, what do you want to buy? Yunxiao rubbed his hands excitedly, subconsciously looked at the banknotes on the ground, and swallowed his saliva. Kakuzu looked sad and angry. He could have just robbed it, but he still gave me something. Seeing that Kakuzu didn't say anything, Yunxiao thought he didn't know what to buy, and hurriedly introduced, I have weapons to improve strength, equipment to increase defense, medicines for healing, etc. As long as you can think of it, I have it here, and you can't imagine it, I also have it here. Hearing Yunxiao's explanation, Kakuzu looked at Yunxiao unexpectedly. Could it be that the other party really just wanted to sell things? You won't kill me, Kakuzu said nervously. Yunxiao was stunned. I'm just a businessman, why would I kill you? I just wanted to teach you a lesson, who knew you were so weak? Kakuzu's mouth twitched. What do you call a lesson? Just beat him to death. But Kakuzu got excited again. Yunxiao just wanted to rob him of his money, it was a good thing that he didn't kill him. Although this money was his half-life savings, as long as he was still alive, he would always make so much money again. Boss, do you have a heart here? Kakuzu asked curiously. Yunxiao smiled and nodded. Of course, follow me. As he said that, Yunxiao walked to a counter. Kakuzu followed curiously. He had lost 2 hearts in the previous battle, and Yunxiao had just beaten another one. Kakuzu, who only had 2 hearts, felt very insecure, so he needed to urgently compensate for the heart. Kakuzu just said it casually, but he didn't expect Yunxiao to really have one here, so he hurriedly walked behind Yunxiao. How about this? Yunxiao took out a black metal heart that was beating slowly. This heart is made of the hardest metal in the universe. I don't think anyone in this world can damage it. Yunxiao handed the metal heart to Kakuzu. Kakuzu was so shocked that he couldn't speak after hearing Yunxiao's introduction. The hardest metal in the universe, no one can damage it. Moreover, the heart can be made of metal. Kakuzu's breathing began to become rapid. He took the heart with trembling hands, and felt the strong beating of the heart in his hands. Kakuzu was very excited. Try whether it is strong or not. If it is not strong, I won't pay. Yunxiao patted his chest and promised. Kakuzu reacted after hearing what he said. He couldn't just listen to Yunxiao's one-sided words. Seeing is believing. Kakuzu then took out a kunai and slashed at the beating heart. Clang! A crisp sound came, and a gap appeared on the kunai, but the metal heart was safe and sound. Kakuzu's eyes widened, unable to believe what was happening before his eyes. He picked up another kunai and chopped hard at the heart, but the result was the same. There were more and more gaps on the kunai, but the metal heart was still intact. Kakuzu's breathing became more and more rapid, and he finally realized that he was holding a priceless treasure. Such a treasure is worth having no matter how much it costs. Thinking of this, a trace of greed flashed in Kakuzu's eyes. He held the metal heart tightly, as if he was afraid that it would be snatched away. Kakuzu breathed quickly. Boss, I want 5 hearts. The heart that cannot be destroyed, coupled with his earth resentment, this is the real immortal body. 15 million taels each, a total of 5, Chungwei 75 million taels. Yunxiao said with a smile. When Kakuzu heard the price, his eyes widened like bells. Boss, is your heart made of gold? Yunxiao said unhappily. This is the hardest metal in the universe, much more expensive than gold. Kakuzu then realized that he was influenced by his previous habit of not spending a penny. This metal heart is tailor-made for him. No matter how expensive this heart is, he will buy it even if he sells everything he has. Boss, I'll buy it. Kakuzu shouted. Haha, so cool. Yunxiao's mouth was almost grinning to his ears, and he quickly took out 4 more hearts and put them on the counter. Kakuzu is the real big customer. He spent 75 million taels at once. Yunxiao was afraid that Kakuzu, this stingy guy, would not spend a penny, and he really couldn't do anything to him. But as long as he spent money, Yunxiao was confident that Kakuzu would be willing to spend all his money. Kakuzu then took off his clothes, and his body was covered with dense sutures. He picked up a heart and slowly stuffed it into his chest. Yunxiao got goosebumps when he saw this. This was too disgusting. After inserting a metal heart, Kakuzu made a surprising discovery. He seemed to be able to control metal. With a thought, the kunai in the ninja bag slowly floated in the air. Yunxiao looked at the floating kunai and was completely dumbfounded. Can you control metal with a metal heart? Isn't this earth regret too terrifying? Control metal. Yunxiao's eyes lit up. He knew what to sell to Kakuzu. Kakuzu excitedly stuffed the other hearts into his chest. What shocked Kakuzu was that he not only had the ability to control all metals within a radius of 10 miles, but also the previous chakra attributes were still there. He was originally worried that after changing the metal heart, he would lose the existing 5 chakra attributes, but he didn't expect that the chakra attributes not only did not disappear, but he also awakened the ability to control metal. Imagine that in a battle, the opponent threw a shuriken, and then Kakuzu controlled the shuriken to float in the air. In the opponent's astonished eyes, the shuriken suddenly turned around and shot back. Just thinking about it is very cool. Of course, people live their whole lives to show their saintliness in front of others. He used to like to see the horrified expression on his opponent's face when he found that he couldn't kill him. Thinking of this, Kakuzu stared at Yunxiao with fiery eyes. The boss in front of him is really mysterious. Not only is he super powerful, but he also has such a powerful product. He subconsciously looked around, and was shocked by the densely packed glass counters. Could it be that all the good stuff was inside? Kakuzu's eyes were burning. If he hadn't known that Yunxiao was so powerful, he would have started robbing long ago. Seeing Kakuzu's excitement, Yunxiao smiled and said, "Since you can control metal, I recommend you buy something." As he said that, Yunxiao walked to a counter and took out a black square box from it. Kakuzu walked up and stared at the box curiously. Under Kakuzu's curious eyes, the box slowly opened, and half a box of silver liquid was placed inside. "Boss, what is this liquid?" Kakuzu asked curiously. "This is not liquid, take a closer look," Yunxiao said with a smile. Hearing this, Kakuzu came to the box and observed it carefully. He found that it was indeed not liquid, but a pile of small round metals piled together. Because it was too small, it really looked like liquid if you didn't look closely. "This is a nanorobot. Since you can control metal, see if you can control it," Yunxiao said. Kakuzu nodded when he heard this. He put his hand into the box, and with a thought, these nanorobots slowly climbed onto Kakuzu's arm. In Kakuzu's shocked eyes, the nanorobots were completely attached to his hand. He only felt that his arm suddenly became extremely hard, and he raised his arm violently and smashed it hard against the glass counter. Clang! A crisp sound echoed in the air. The glass counter in front of him was smashed to pieces by Kakuzu, and countless glass fragments flew everywhere, scattered on the ground, making a tinkling sound. Kakuzu widened his eyes and was very excited. He found that these nanorobots could actually change with his thoughts and could be transformed into various shapes. This powerful function made him ecstatic, as if he had discovered a huge treasure. It's a pity that the nanorobots in the box can only cover one arm. "Boss, how much is this? I want more." Kakuzu looked at Yunxiao excitedly. However, when he looked at Yunxiao, he found that the other party was looking at him with a smile, and there was a hint of inexplicable surprise in his eyes. Kakuzu was puzzled and asked in confusion, "Boss, what's wrong?" Yunxiao's smile became brighter and brighter. "Dear, you broke the glass display cabinet of our store, can you compensate me with 10 million taels?" Hearing Yunxiao's words, Kakuzu's previous excitement instantly disappeared, and he widened his eyes with an unbelievable look on his face. "Boss, why is it so expensive?" Kakuzu almost collapsed, and he couldn't help shouting loudly. He really wanted to slap himself twice. Why was his hand so cheap? "No way, who told you to damage it?" Yunxiao's mouth corners curled up, and he couldn't suppress it. Kakuzu nodded with heartache. "I'll pay. Pay together when the time comes," Yunxiao said with a smile. Then, he waved his hand, and the counter that was originally smashed to pieces was restored to its original state in an instant. Kakuzu rubbed his eyes subconsciously, and was horrified to find that the counter was fixed like this. He looked at Yunxiao with heartache. He just waved his hand and fixed it, but Yunxiao actually asked him to pay 10 million. Kakuzu was so angry that he quickly covered his heart. If he didn't have 5 hearts and fast blood supply, he would have fainted. Perhaps this incident, in Kakuzu's long life, he will never forget it. Yunxiao automatically ignored Kakuzu's expression, and he said cheerfully, "You said you want more nanorobots. You wait." Yunxiao took out 4 boxes of nanorobots from under the counter. Although Kakuzu was sad, when he saw the nanorobots, the previous haze was swept away. If nanorobots can cover his entire body, coupled with his metal heart, he will be the most awesome bounty hunter in the ninja world. In Kakuzu's eyes, ninjas are no longer representatives of physical skills, ninjutsu, and illusion, but a monetary unit of measurement. Similar to 1 ma equals 30 million. Their value depends on their bounty amount. Life is just a string of beautiful numbers for him. He has begun to imagine that he will be immersed in the joy of exchanging heads for money every day in the future. After all, the world is big, making money is the biggest, eating, drinking, having fun, and killing are the most fun. In the future, he will definitely be able to live a life where he can count money until his hands cramp without paying attention to anything else. Then he can use the money he earns to buy things from the boss. If Yunxiao knew what Kakuzu was thinking at this moment, he would definitely praise him. Young man, you have a promising future. 1 box is 20 million taels, a total of 100 million taels. Yunxiao's words pulled Kakuzu back to his senses. He was a little shocked. He didn't expect that the nanorobots were so expensive. Fortunately, he didn't spend the money he earned in these years, so he could still afford it. Yunxiao was so excited. Kakuzu was really a big customer. I didn't expect that he spent 185 million taels here in such a short time. Kakuzu took the box and controlled the nanorobots to cover his body without hesitation. But what surprised Kakuzu was that he had bought 5 boxes, and the nanorobots only covered half of his body. He gritted his teeth. Boss, another box. Kakuzu's savings over the years were almost gone. Yunxiao smiled and said, brother, let's settle the previous bill first. A total of 185.5 million taels, and the 500,000 taels are the money for the senzu beans I gave you before. Kakuzu nodded. He understood that the boss was afraid that he couldn't pay. After he gave the money to Yunxiao, the original mountain of money was almost gone. Yunxiao estimated that there should be 30 to 40 million taels of money on the ground. After Kakuzu handed the money to Yunxiao, he suddenly realized that the property he had accumulated for so many years was about to be spent in a short time. Yunxiao took the big pile of money from Kakuzu, put it into the system space, and said happily, you want another box of nanorobots? Yes, boss. As he said that, Kakuzu began to count how much money he had left. Soon, Kakuzu looked at the 35 million taels on the ground and fell into deep thought. He originally thought that the remaining money could buy 2 more boxes of nanorobots, but he didn't expect that he could only buy 1 box. He didn't expect that the money he earned from accepting bounties over the years would be spent so quickly. Kakuzu put the remaining 15 million taels into the storage scroll. He planned to save more money and arm the nanorobots to the teeth at once. He found that the nanorobots not only had high attack power, but also strong defense. With high attack power and thick health bar, who can beat him like this? Kakuzu handed 20 million taels to Yunxiao. Boss, give you money. Yunxiao smiled and put the money into the system space, then took out a box of nanorobots and handed it to Kakuzu. Kakuzu took the box without hesitation and quickly installed the nanorobot on himself. Yunxiao was very excited. Kakuzu spent 2 small goals on him. He was indeed an old antique who had lived from the Warring States period to the present. He was rich. Brother, is there anything else you need? Yunxiao asked. Kakuzu sighed. Boss, I have no money. Yunxiao patted Kakuzu on the shoulder and said earnestly, in this world, family, love, and friendship may betray you, but only your own strength and the money in your hands will not betray you. Kakuzu nodded in agreement. Yunxiao was right. He had lived for so many years and had seen all kinds of things. Brothers turned against each other for a little benefit. The son hoped that his seriously ill father would die soon, etc. In these long years, Kakuzu had outlasted his former friends and enemies, witnessed the glory of Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, and experienced the cruelty of war and the coldness of human nature. As Yunxiao said, Kakuzu realized this, so he put his enthusiasm into unlimited money-making activities, so he could spend so much money to buy things. But, in my case, money and strength complement each other. As long as you have enough money, you can exchange strength here. So as long as you keep making money and then come to me to spend, you can become stronger. Yunxiao put his arm around Kakuzu's shoulders and persuaded him. Kakuzu nodded seriously. I understand, boss. Kakuzu has made up his mind to make 85 million taels in the shortest time and get the remaining nanorobots. Seeing Kakuzu's reaction, Yunxiao nodded with satisfaction. It's good that the other party knows, and it's not in vain that his mouth is almost dry. Boss, I'll go back to make money first, Kakuzu said. I wish you to make a lot of money soon, Yunxiao encouraged. He really hoped that Kakuzu could make money quickly and come to him to spend money. I will. Kakuzu picked up his head from the ground and stopped at the door, because the door was locked. Yunxiao was a little embarrassed and opened the door quickly. He was afraid that this big customer would suddenly run away, so he locked the door. Come often. Yunxiao waved his hand. Kakuzu nodded, gathered the nanorobots on his legs, and left quickly. Yunxiao looked at Kakuzu's back and sighed. I hope he can make a lot of money soon. As he said that, Yunxiao yawned and returned to the house. The border of the fire country. Conan, wait a minute. Conan, who was looking for Orochimaru, stopped immediately after hearing the voice. He looked at Pain leaning against the tree in confusion. Pain, why are you here? Conan asked in confusion. The plan has changed. You look for a ninja named Kakuzu at the gold exchange on the border of the land of fire. I will go find Orochimaru myself, Pain said lightly. Understood. Conan's body instantly turned into a pile of paper and flew somewhere. Leader, White Zetsu sent information that Orochimaru went to the land of fields. The speaker was a short-looking man. If Yunxiao was here, he would definitely recognize that this was the Red Sand Scorpion's Hiriko. He went to the land of fields. Pain murmured, yes. Then let's go. Two figures, one big and one small, began to rush to the land of fields quickly. The land of fields. Since Lord Orochimaru came back, he has been staying in the experiment and has not come out. Keep your voice down. Lord Orochimaru should be doing experiments. Didn't you hear the explosions from time to time? The ninjas following Orochimaru looked curiously in the direction of the laboratory. Bong. Suddenly there was a sound in the laboratory. The huge explosion scared the ninjas outside and made them pale. What on earth is Lord Orochimaru researching? This sound is so terrifying. In the laboratory, Orochimaru was wearing a green Taoist robe and had his hair gathered behind his head, like a real Taoist priest. He had this outfit specially customized according to the illustrations in the Compendium of Pills, because he thought this was the outfit that a cultivator should wear. At this time, Orochimaru was covered in dust and coughed non-stop. He looked at the Compendium of Pills in his hand in confusion and said to himself, did it fail again? He really couldn't figure out which link he had gone wrong. Orochimaru recalled what his boss had said and muttered to himself, the boss is right, this alchemy is really not that simple. He opened the alchemy furnace and found 7 pills inside, 6 of which were black, and only one was emitting dazzling golden light. Wow, golden legend. Orochimaru picked up the golden pill in surprise and looked at it carefully. Is this the legendary Dolly pill? He checked the introduction in the book. The surface of the Dolly pill is golden. After taking it, it can enhance physical fitness in a short period of time, but it will fall into a weak period after the effect of the medicine ends. There is golden light on the surface. It seems that the refining is successful. Orochimaru licked his lips excitedly. But Orochimaru didn't dare to test the medicine on himself. What if there is a problem after taking it? He decided to find an unlucky guy to help him test the medicine. Who are you? Ah, just then, a few screams suddenly came from outside the laboratory, but soon quieted down. Orochimaru licked the corner of his mouth. There are guests coming. Before he finished speaking, the door of the laboratory was suddenly blown away by a repulsive force. A gust of wind blew, and Orochimaru's Taoist robe was blown. Tap tap tap. 2 people in black robes walked into the laboratory. Akatsuki organization, Orochimaru murmured. When he defected from Konoha, he heard about the Akatsuki organization, which was an organization composed entirely of renegade ninjas. So after seeing their outfits, Orochimaru recognized them immediately. He didn't expect that he had just defected from Konoha, and the other party came to him so quickly. Chapter 11. Hearing Orochimaru's words, Pain asked with interest, oh, do you know us? I know a little bit. Orochimaru said. Then you should know the purpose of our coming here. I am Pain, the leader of Akatsuki, and I invite you to join Akatsuki. Pain said coldly. Orochimaru stared straight into Pain's eyes and licked the corner of his mouth, the eyes of the legendary Six-Path Sage. If you want my eyes, it depends on whether you are qualified enough. Pain frowned. Orochimaru smiled and shook his head. I am not interested in the Samsara Eye. He might have been interested in the Samsara Eye before, but now that he has started to cultivate immortality, he has no interest in the Samsara Eye at all. You can let me join Akatsuki, but I need a lot of funds for experiments. Orochimaru said. He was just worrying about where to get the money, and Akatsuki came to his door. Pain didn't expect Orochimaru to make such a condition. He thought about it and agreed, okay, I promise you. Welcome to join the Akatsuki organization. Scorpion of the Red Sand took out a ring and Akatsuki robe and handed it to Orochimaru. The word, empty, was written on the ring. Orochimaru took the ring and put it on his hand. Scorpion of the Red Sand looked at Orochimaru's Taoist robe curiously and complained, what kind of clothes are you wearing? Why do you feel weird? Taoist robe. Orochimaru put the Akatsuki robe on the outside. The goal of our Akatsuki organization is to create a world without war and pain. We are constantly working towards this goal. Pain said. Orochimaru doesn't care what the goal of Akatsuki is. He joined Akatsuki purely for the money. The three are about to leave the laboratory. Wait a minute. Orochimaru suddenly remembered that he hadn't taken his alchemy furnace yet. He first picked up the storage scroll on the table and put it on his waist. The storage scroll contained the medicinal materials and firearms for his alchemy. These things were very important and he must not leave them behind. As for the alchemy furnace, it was too big and could not fit in the storage scroll, so Orochimaru could only hold it in front of him. Scorpion looked at the alchemy furnace curiously. What is this? Alchemy furnace. Oh, what is it for? Alchemy. What is alchemy? Quote. Orochimaru was speechless. Why was this guy asking questions like a curious baby? He couldn't help but start thinking whether it was a wrong decision for him to join the Akatsuki organization. Outside the gold exchange. Clang, 1 million in hand, still 84 million short. Kakuzu said excitedly. As long as he keeps accepting bounties, he will be able to buy a full set of nanorobots soon. By then, with the metal heart and nanorobots, Kakuzu felt that he could fight with Hashirama Senju. Ever since Kakuzu was beaten by Hashirama's wooden clone, he thought every tree he saw looked like Hashirama Senju. Kakuzu had already made up his mind, and when the time came, he would go to Konoha to dig out Hashirama Senju and whip his corpse. Who? Kakuzu suddenly looked up at the sky. A pile of paper slowly gathered together, and finally formed a woman with wings. Kakuzu, I invite you to join the Akatsuki organization. Conan said condescendingly. Kakuzu narrowed his eyes. I'm busy making money, how can I have time to join any organization? Kakuzu felt that making money was the most important thing, and no one could stop him from making money. Conan expected Kakuzu to refuse, and she said coldly, then you can only surrender by force. Conan fell to the ground, and the wings behind her turned into a pile of paper, flying around Kakuzu. Kakuzu raised his eyebrows. Interesting, let me show you my new power. As he spoke, Kakuzu's body was suddenly covered with silver metal, and the black tentacles behind him were also covered with metal. Xiaonan was a little surprised. The intelligence didn't say this. Puff! Xiaonan's body was instantly split in half by Kakuzu's tentacles. Xiaonan's body immediately turned into a pile of paper. The pile of paper flew behind Kakuzu and finally formed Xiaonan. Some strength, Kakuzu murmured. Xiaonan was also shocked. She didn't expect Kakuzu to be so strong. The attack just now was very fast. She almost didn't react. Xiaonan looked at the metal covering Kakuzu's body curiously. This should be the thing that greatly increased Kakuzu's strength. She didn't know where the metal on Kakuzu came from. She was going to let Zetsu investigate. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll let you go. With that, Kakuzu turned around and prepared to leave. 100 million. Kakuzu took a step forward and took it back again. He turned around and looked at Xiaonan in disbelief. What did you say just now? I'll give you 100 million if you join the Akatsuki organization. Xiaonan said. Kakuzu's eyes lit up immediately, and he smiled and said, it doesn't matter whether it's money or not. I was mainly moved by the purpose of the organization. By the way, what is the purpose of the organization? Create a peaceful world. Yes, yes, I joined the Akatsuki organization just to create a peaceful world. Kakuzu said hypocritically. He learned this from Yunxiao. He thought that saying this would make others feel his sincerity. Xiaonan was a little surprised. The intelligence didn't say this. Kakuzu is a person who values money as his life. When necessary, he can be fooled into the organization with money. Xiaonan threw the organization's clothes and a ring with the word North written on it to Kakuzu. Kakuzu put on his clothes and said impatiently, "What are you waiting for? I can't wait to see the money, other members of the organization." Xiaonan nodded, turned and flew in one direction, and Kakuzu hurriedly followed. Before leaving, Kakuzu looked in the direction of the store. "Don't worry, nanorobots, I will come to you soon." After Kakuzu left, a pitcher plant suddenly emerged from the ground. He looked curiously in the direction Kakuzu had looked before, and murmured, "Sure enough, there is something fishy, let me see what's going on." As he said that, he sneaked in that direction. Rain Country. Akatsuki Organization Base. A man with a beheading sword on his back looked at the alchemy furnace brought by Orochimaru curiously. This man was Biwa Juzo. "Orochimaru-kun, what is this for?" Biwa Juzo asked curiously. Orochimaru did not explain. He smiled and handed Biwa Juzo a golden pill. Biwa Juzo took it subconsciously. "Orochimaru-kun, what is this?" "This is our first meeting. I'm giving you a pill to enhance your strength, just pay it when you encounter special circumstances," Orochimaru said. "I see, thanks, Orochimaru-kun." Biwa Juzo thanked. Tap tap tap. "What, there are only so few people," Kakuzu muttered. Orochimaru was surprised to see the silver liquid flowing through Kakuzu's body. This thing doesn't belong to this world at first glance. He licked the corner of his mouth subconsciously. "Have you been to that store?" Kakuzu was shocked when he heard this, and he looked at Orochimaru fiercely. He didn't expect that he was not the only one in the organization who had been there. Orochimaru saw Kakuzu's reaction and understood. "When did a building appear here?" Black Zetsu asked in confusion. He looked at the stone pillar, all-knowing and all-powerful, with everything. Black Zetsu immediately became interested. He had lived for more than 1,000 years and did not dare to say that he was all-knowing and all-powerful. How could this small, broken shop dare to do so? He was a little curious and wanted to sneak in from underground to see what was going on. So, he touched the underground of the house and wanted to get in as usual. Ding! Black Zetsu covered his head in pain. "It hurts so much." If it weren't for the pitcher plant on his head that helped him resist most of the damage, it would definitely hurt more. Black Zetsu was confused. He didn't understand why his penetration technique couldn't penetrate. Logically, there was no building in the world that he couldn't enter. He hit the floor again in disbelief. Bang! As expected, Black Zetsu's head still hit the floor. "Why is this?" Black Zetsu felt the severe pain from his head and was completely confused. He sneaked to the door and looked at the building carefully. It shouldn't be. Black Zetsu looked around and didn't find anything special about this room, but why couldn't he pass through it? "Is there a special sealing technique in this room?" Black Zetsu said. "No, I'm going to tell Obito." He was always cautious and didn't dare to rush in. After all, he couldn't use the penetration technique he was proud of. What if he was ambushed when he walked in foolishly? Thinking of this, Black Zetsu quietly sneaked into the underground. Ramen Village. A person disappeared in the darkness. "You mean you can't enter that room?" "Yes, I think there is a problem, so I came to tell you," Black Zetsu said. "Interesting, I'll go and see." As he said that, a vortex wave appeared in his right eye and finally disappeared. As Obito, who claimed to have been in control of everything behind the scenes, would not allow anything to get out of his control, even if it was something outside of his plan. "Wait for me." Black Zetsu hurriedly followed. Outside the house. "Is this the room?" Obito looked at the ancient building in front of him and carefully looked at everything around him, but he didn't find anything unusual. "Yes, I can't penetrate it," Black Zetsu replied helplessly. "Interesting, let me try." Obito's mouth corners raised under the mask, revealing an interested expression. After that, the three Magatama in his right eye suddenly began to spin wildly, and finally turned into a windmill-like shape. With this change, a vortex wave appeared in his right eye, and Obito's body gradually disappeared. However, just as Obito was about to enter the room, an accident happened. In the shocked eyes of Black Zetsu, Obito's head actually hit the wall directly, making a muffled sound. Huh, what's going on? Obito covered his painful head, his face full of shock. Why can't I enter? Is there a space sealing technique set up here? But he didn't see any fluctuations of the sealing technique around him, which made Obito very puzzled. What should I do, Obito? Black Zetsu asked anxiously. Obito looked at the open door not far away, and a trace of determination flashed in his eyes. He snorted coldly and said, "Won't you know if you go in and take a look?" "Are you crazy? What if there is danger?" Black Zetsu exclaimed. He really didn't dare to go in. His plan was not yet completed, and he must not have any accidents. Obito looked at Black Zetsu with contempt and sneered, "No one in this world can do anything to me." Obito is very confident in his current strength. As he said, Obito walked towards the door without hesitation. Hearing Obito's pretentious words, Black Zetsu was speechless. This kid pretended again. Black Zetsu had already thought about saying a few heartfelt words to Obito after his plan was successful. It was impossible to go, and he absolutely could not take this risk. However, when Obito gradually went away, Black Zetsu began to hesitate. Somehow, he felt that the things inside were very important to him. After some ideological struggle, he finally decided to take a risk. So, Black Zetsu followed Obito carefully, keeping a certain distance. He had prepared for the worst. If the situation was not right, he would leave Obito and run away alone without hesitation. After all, if Obito was gone, there was still Nagato, but if Black Zetsu was gone, he would be gone for real. He was different from Obito and Nagato, who were all alone. His old mother on the moon was still waiting for his rescue. In the future, when the Otsutsuki clan invaded, he would have to fight against the Otsutsuki clan with his mother. He could not have any problems no matter what. Inside the house, Yunxiao really couldn't bear it. "It's okay, the floor made noises at first, but now there are noises on the walls." "System, what kind of broken house is this? Can't you let people sleep?" Yunxiao complained. Just then, Obito walked into the house. Yunxiao heard footsteps and subconsciously looked at the door. When he saw the person coming, Yunxiao was stunned. The yellow vortex single-eye mask and the clothes of the Akatsuki organization, who else could it be but Uchiha Obito? And the pitcher plant behind, who else could it be but Zetsu? Today, the Akatsuki organization's nest was really poked. Why are all the people coming here from the Akatsuki organization? Uchiha Obito also stared at Yunxiao, civilians. Black Zetsu observed for a while and found no danger, so he also walked into the store. He looked at the glass counters around him curiously. He had never seen these strange things in his thousands of years of life. This guy has no chakra fluctuations, he should be just an ordinary person, but this place is a bit strange, there seem to be many things I haven't seen. Black Zetsu said to Obito. Obito nodded, and then continued to stare at Yunxiao. "Are you the owner of this store?" Yunxiao came back to his senses, and hurried forward and said enthusiastically, "Yes, what do the two guests want to buy?" "What do you have here?" Black Zetsu asked curiously. "We have everything you want. As long as the money is in place, you can ask me to blow up the moon in the sky." Yunxiao patted his chest and promised. Yunxiao said this deliberately, because it is impossible to blow up the moon without hundreds of billions. He was hinting to Black Zetsu that as long as he had money, he could blow up the moon. As expected, Black Zetsu's eyes lit up, but soon calmed down. This made Yunxiao sigh secretly, worthy of being an old monster who has lived for 1,000 years. Black Zetsu laughed and said, "Boss, stop joking. How is this possible?" Yunxiao knew that Black Zetsu had taken the bait. He said disdainfully, "Isn't the moon formed by the Six Paths Chibaku Tensai sealing technique? Give me a few billion and I'll help you solve it in a minute." Black Zetsu was stunned when he heard Yunxiao's words. How did the boy in front of him know the Six Paths Chibaku Tensai ninjutsu? Black Zetsu couldn't figure out why the boy in front of him knew the Six Paths Chibaku Tensai ninjutsu. No one in this world should know it. When Black Zetsu was thrown out by his mother, he heard Otsutsuki Hagoromo and Otsutsuki Hamura shouting, "Six Paths Chibaku Tensai." Then they both hit their mother with one palm. A puddle on the ground. Black Zetsu saw with his own eyes that the earth began to crack, countless pieces of soil began to gather towards his mother, and soon formed a huge meteorite with her as the center. Then the meteorite slowly rose into the sky and formed the current moon. Because Black Zetsu had no power, he could only quietly lurk in the dark for these years, constantly planning to resurrect his old mother. And the 6 paths Chibaku Tensei Ninjutsu, except for the 4 people present at the time, no one should know it. Why did the boy in front of him know it? Black Zetsu remembered the words, omniscient and omnipotent, written on the stone pillar at the door. He looked at Yunxiao with horror. Could it be that he really knew everything? Black Zetsu's breathing was a little rapid. Even though he had been dormant for thousands of years, he couldn't hold back his excitement at this moment. Because the boy in front of him might really be able to revive his mother. Can you really destroy the moon? Black Zetsu said nervously. Obito on the side subconsciously looked at Black Zetsu. He didn't know what Black Zetsu was thinking. Why did he want to destroy the moon for no reason? Obito looked at Black Zetsu speechlessly. What was even more outrageous was that Black Zetsu seemed to believe what the boss said. Of course, as he said that, Yunxiao's hand swept through the air. A blue screen appeared in the eyes of Obito and Black Zetsu. The two were startled by the sudden appearance of the light screen. They didn't understand why this screen appeared out of thin air. This is a simulated picture of a 700 caliber Star Destroyer. Yunxiao clicked the play button. In the picture, there was a huge black muzzle, which slowly turned and then aimed at the moon in the distance. Buzz buzz buzz. The Star Destroyer cannon was fully charged, and the muzzle began to gather blue light. Swoosh. The huge blue beam of light shot at the moon at a very fast speed, and then sank directly into the moon. After a few breaths, the originally peaceful moon suddenly turned into dust and disappeared into the universe. After the picture was played, Black Zetsu and Obito opened their mouths in shock. What kind of powerful weapon is this? Such a big moon, not even a slag is left in a few breaths. Yunxiao was very satisfied to see the shocked reactions of the two. He smiled and said, "This is a Star Destroyer cannon. As long as you have money, I will get it for you in minutes." Hearing this, the two looked at Yunxiao in fear, and no longer had the contempt they had at the beginning. Are you kidding? Can a boss who can easily get such a world-destroying weapon be an ordinary person? Boss, I wonder how much this Star Destroyer cannon costs. Black Zetsu said expectantly. Yunxiao stretched out a hand and said with a smile, 100 billion, one shot. Black Zetsu was so excited. He didn't expect that this kind of world-destroying weapon would only cost 100 billion taels. Although it was expensive, Black Zetsu thought that making money was much easier than playing tricks behind the scenes to revive his mother. With his IQ, it would take at most a few decades to make 100 billion. As for reviving his mother, he has spent more than 1,000 years and still hasn't achieved it. When Black Zetsu knew that he could revive his mother as long as he had money, he was obviously so excited that he wanted to leave immediately to make money. Screw you Uchiha Madara, screw you Infinite Tsukuyomi. Black Zetsu was excited after seeing the power of the Star Destroyer, but then he quickly reacted. With one shot from the Star Destroyer, the moon was turned into dust. Can the old mother in the moon still be alive? Boss, can the people inside survive after one shot? Black Zetsu said cautiously. Yunxiao patted his chest and assured, "Don't worry, the power of the Star Destroyer is beyond imagination. Nothing will be left after one shot." Black Zetsu was about to cry. He finally found other ways to revive his mother, but the power of the Star Destroyer was so terrifying that his mother was gone after one shot. Yunxiao saw Black Zetsu's expression and slapped his forehead. Then he remembered that Kagaya Otsutsuki was still inside. He smiled and said, "I still have many ways to destroy the moon." As he said that, he clicked on another video. In the video, a thin blue-haired old man suddenly bulged his muscles in an extremely exaggerated way, and the veins on his muscles bulged. He shouted loudly, "Kameha!" Then, a white light wave suddenly shot out from his hand and flew straight to the moon in the sky. Then, the moon in the sky began to break into pieces. Obito and Black Zetsu widened their eyes in surprise again. They could not imagine that an old man who seemed weak and fragile had muscles on his body. The meat suddenly bulged exaggeratedly and destroyed the moon casually. Isn't it much gentler to destroy the moon like this? Yun Xiao smiled and looked at Black Zetsu. Black Zetsu nodded excitedly. In this way, the moon would only be broken, and the old mother on the moon would definitely come out. You can even ask the other party to reduce the force and destroy the moon with multiple attacks. Yun Xiao added considerately. Black Zetsu was surprised to hear this, so that the safety of the mother can be greatly guaranteed. He hurriedly asked, "Boss, I wonder how much it costs to hire this old man." "It costs 20 billion taels to destroy the moon with one Kamehameha, and 40 billion taels for 2 shots. Yun Xiao said. Black Zetsu's breathing began to quicken. 40 billion taels, I didn't expect that only 40 billion taels could revive his mother. Boss, wait for me to make money. Black Zetsu said and ran out excitedly. Black Zetsu, what are you going to do? Obito asked with a confused look on his face. He didn't understand what happened to Black Zetsu today. Why was he so excited after knowing that he could destroy the moon? Obito decided to find a time to talk to Black Zetsu. Black Zetsu naturally heard Obito's question, but his top priority now was to earn 40 billion ryo as soon as possible and then revive his mother. Where would he have time to care about Obito? Black Zetsu was so excited. Screw Uchiha Madara, screw Uchiha Obito, screw Akatsuki, screw Infinite Tsukuyomi. Now that he had a new goal, he naturally didn't bother to care about these people. After all, in Black Zetsu's view, both Madara and Obito were just pawns on his way to revive his mother. He had been unhappy with these self-righteous guys for many years. If he didn't have to rely on them to implement his plan, he would have run away long ago. Black Zetsu looked up at the sky excitedly. Although it was daytime and the moon was not visible, he still said excitedly, "Mother, did you hear me? I will come to revive you soon." As he said that, Black Zetsu quickly dived underground and prepared to start his money-making plan. Ha ha ha, Mother, I'm here to save you. Black Zetsu's voice suddenly became farther and farther away. In the store, Yun Xiao felt a little emotional when he heard what Black Zetsu said. Unexpectedly, Kagaya's 2 biological sons would believe the words of a toad, turn against their mother, and finally choose to seal their mother. On the contrary, Black Zetsu, who was Kagaya's aunt's blood, was extremely filial and plotted for more than 1,000 years to revive his mother. During this period, he caused Indra and Asura to break up, and fooled several generations of the 2 brothers' chakra reincarnations. Finally, he set his sights on Uchiha Madara and successfully fooled him into believing that Black Zetsu was the incarnation of his will. Before Uchiha Madara died, he gave Obito, the stupid boy, to Black Zetsu to take care of. Little did he know that he had been unhappy with Obito, the idiot, for many years. Now that he knew other ways to revive his mother, Black Zetsu would naturally ignore them. Let these stupid boys continue to immerse themselves in the beautiful dream of infinite Tsukuyomi. Obito was confused when he heard Black Zetsu's voice. What did Black Zetsu say just now? Obito was in a mess in the wind. Black Zetsu was not Madara's will. How could there be a mother? Did Uchiha Madara leave an unknown backup? Obito fell into deep thought. Yun Xiao watched Black Zetsu leave with a smile on his face. He knew that Black Zetsu would not be able to hold back and would bring tens of billions. Yun Xiao was very excited just thinking about it. This was a big order of tens of billions. By then, he would have a commission of 40 million. You can't blame Yun Xiao for being so excited, because now he is just an ordinary person after leaving the store, and the stingy search system does not give him a discount, so he can only buy at the original price. Who would have thought that as a store manager, he would have to spend his own money to buy things in the store? Yun Xiao asked Obito in a daze, "This customer, do you need anything?" Obito then reacted and didn't care about Black Zetsu for now. The store manager in front of him was an extraordinary person. He even has world-destroying weapons. It is hard to imagine that such a person would be an ordinary businessman. Yun Xiao found that Obito was silent, so he hinted, "Guest, as long as you have money, I can do anything, gain powerful strength, rejuvenate, revive deceased relatives and friends." Yun Xiao deliberately emphasized the resurrection of relatives and friends. Sure enough, Obito's right eye widened when he heard it. His breathing began to become heavy, and he raised his head and looked at Yun Xiao for a long time. "Boss, what you said is true." Because he was too excited, Obito did not maintain Madara's tone. "Of course it is true, but reviving the dead is an act against heaven, and the price required is very high. Yun Xiao said. Obito naturally knew that, after all, the reincarnation of the reincarnation I can revive the dead, but the caster will die. Obito lowered his head in disappointment. He had begun to have no expectations for Yun Xiao, so he should honestly plan the Moon Eye plan. But, Yun Xiao changed his tone, you have to pay more. Disappointed Obito rekindled hope, boss, how much? It's a bit expensive, 80 billion taels. Yun Xiao sighed. Yun Xiao thought Obito would be as happy to make money as Black Zetsu, but that was not the case. Obito stood there quietly, motionless. Because he was wearing a mask, Yun Xiao could not see his expression at the moment. Obito under the mask showed a tangled look, because he knew clearly that it would take decades for him to earn 80 billion. However, his Moon Eye plan has been launched, and Obito believes that it will only take a few years for the Moon Eye plan to be completed. By then, opening the infinite moon reading will create a world without pain, which is what he and Madara have been pursuing. Obito was caught in a fierce ideological struggle. He was weighing whether to pursue the real Lin or immerse himself in the beautiful fantasy of Lin brought by the infinite moon reading. At the same time, Yun Xiao was at a loss, and he didn't understand what Obito was thinking. He couldn't help wondering why Obito stood there stupidly, motionless. Could it be that he was stunned by the huge surprise when he suddenly learned that he could revive Lin? After a long time, Obito suddenly raised his head and looked at Yun Xiao coldly. No need, compared to this cruel ninja world, I prefer her to live in a beautiful world. Yun Xiao was shocked by Obito's sudden words. Was this stupid boy stunned by the huge rock on his head? Yun Xiao thought it was true, otherwise how could he be fooled by Uchiha Madara? However, Uchiha Madara was also careless. He chose to pull out the oxygen tube of the 10 tails, and after his death, he handed over everything to Zetsu and Obito. Perhaps, Uchiha Madara felt that Black Zetsu was his will, and Obito it was his pawn that pulled out the oxygen tube without fear, right? Little did he know that Black Zetsu was actually the big boss behind the scenes, and Obito was a traitor. If it weren't for the ninja war, when Kabuto Yakushi got Madara's body, he might not have had the chance to appear. The plot at that time might be that when Obito was being talked out of his mouth and was about to turn against his side, Black Zetsu suddenly opened his heart and resurrected Kagaya. Yun Xiao felt that Black Zetsu was worthy of being the mastermind behind the scenes, and he had thought of many emergencies. Naruto could even be renamed Black Zetsu saves his mother. Seeing Yun Xiao distracted, Obito was a little angry. Boss, don't you believe what I said? Yun Xiao continued to be distracted. Obito was completely angry. He said loudly, I will create a perfect world without war. Obito shouted hoarsely. Yun Xiao subconsciously scratched his ears. What is this silly boy doing? Seeing Yun Xiao's indifferent look, Obito was so angry that his eyes twitched. The 3 Magatama in his eyes turned wildly, and soon turned into a Mangekyo Sharingan. Yun Xiao was stunned when he saw the Mangekyo Sharingan. Obito saw Yun Xiao's expression and thought he was shocked by his Sharingan. This is the capital for me to start the Moon Eye project. Obito said confidently. Yun Xiao was stunned, of course not because he was scared, but because of the system's words. AB level Mangekyo Sharingan, single, was detected. This system is willing to bid 10 million taels to buy it. Please negotiate with it. Yun Xiao realized that the system did not have any products from the Naruto world, and he had to buy them all. No wonder the system has so many products from other worlds. It turns out that there are people like him who buy things in other worlds. Obito is still chattering about his Moon Eye project, trying to trick Yun Xiao, the big boss, into joining. After all, Yun Xiao already has a world-destroying weapon. If they get him to join them, who in the entire ninja world can be their opponent? Yun Xiao came back to his senses and heard Obito babble endlessly. Obito was very excited when he saw Yun Xiao open his mouth. Could it be that the other party had already surrendered to his personality charm and was ready to join them? Are you selling your Mangekyo Sharingan? Are you selling your Mangekyo Sharingan? Uchiha Obito. He talked about his grand ambitions for a long time, and his mouth was almost dry, just wanting Yun Xiao to join the Akatsuki organization. But Yun Xiao suddenly asked if he would sell his eyes. I'll sell the bull demon. If he didn't think Yun Xiao's strength was unfathomable, Obito would have wanted to point at Yun Xiao's nose and scold him. What did you say just now? Obito said in disbelief. Yunxiao thought Obito didn't hear clearly. He slowed down his tone and said word by word, I said, are you selling your Mangekyo Sharingan? Obito's face was gloomy, staring at Yunxiao. He felt that Yunxiao was playing tricks on him and looked down on his Mooneye plan. Yunxiao didn't know what Obito was thinking, and he smiled and said, I am willing to pay a high price of 10 million to buy your Mangekyo Sharingan. Obito looked for a long time, and Yunxiao didn't seem to be playing tricks on him, and really wanted to buy his eyes. The corner of his mouth twitched under the mask. The young man in front of him was really a pure businessman. Yunxiao saw that Obito was unmoved, and hurriedly said, the purchase price of 10 million is really high. Obito was speechless. Is his Mangekyo Sharingan only worth 10 million? Not for sale. Yunxiao knew that Obito would not sell it, but he was a little surprised. Why didn't Obito ask him about resurrection? Brother, don't you have any deceased relatives or friends who need to be resurrected? Yunxiao tempted. Don't worry about it, boss. I have my own way. Goodbye, Obito said and turned away. Yunxiao was dumbfounded. What was Obito's way? Did he want Nagato to use the Samsara reincarnation to resurrect Rin? How could this be possible? Nagato didn't even resurrect Yahiko, so how could he resurrect Rin? Yunxiao suddenly thought of something. Could it be Infinite Tsukuyomi? This stupid boy was fooled by Madara, and Madara was fooled by Black Zetsu. Infinite Tsukuyomi is a scam. Yunxiao asked why Obito said so confidently that he had a way. Seeing that Obito had already walked to the door, Yunxiao said lightly, Uchiha Obito. In fact, the Infinite Tsukuyomi was tricked by Black Zetsu. Obito, who walked to the door, froze when he heard the words. He turned his head in disbelief and looked at Yunxiao, his eyes full of shock. How did the boss in front of him know his identity in the Infinite Tsukuyomi? After a while, Uchiha Obito came back to his senses and looked at Yunxiao with a sinister look. It was obvious that he had already made up his mind to kill. He walked in front of Yunxiao, looked at the smiling boy, and said coldly, how did you know my identity? Obito dared to guarantee that he had never revealed his identity. How did the boy in front of him know it? And why did he say that the Infinite Tsukuyomi was tricked by Black Zetsu? Yunxiao smiled and said, as written on the stone pillar, I know everything. This is not Yunxiao bragging, he can exchange all the information in the world with money. But since he has watched Naruto, he knows these things without spending money. Obito narrowed his eyes, what's the matter with you saying that the infinite moon reading is fake just now? Yunxiao stretched out 5 fingers, this information is 500,000 taels. A vortex wave, 500,000 appeared on the counter out of thin air. Yunxiao waved his hand, and the money on the counter disappeared. Obito widened his eyes, he didn't expect that the boss in front of him also knew time and space ninjutsu. This started 1,000 years ago, when Kagaya Otsutsuki. 800 words omitted here. After listening to Yunxiao's explanation, Uchiha Obito widened his eyes, his face full of disbelief. He suddenly fell to the ground, his body trembling slightly, and said in a hoarse voice, it turns out that I am just a chess piece. Ha ha. After learning the truth, Obito felt that the sky had fallen. His waist, which had been bent for all these years, finally broke at this moment. Ha ha. Infinite Tsukuyomi is fake. Uchiha Obito suddenly took off his mask, revealing the half-disfigured face. He looked so embarrassed under the mask, and his eyes were full of despair and pain. Unexpectedly, he was deceived for so many years. He thought he had found a way to save the world, but now he found that everything was a lie. For this lie, he planned for so many years, even killing his teacher and his mistress, as well as many innocent people. And all this was just for an illusory goal, Infinite Tsukuyomi. Thinking of this, Uchiha Obito couldn't help but burst into tears. He vaguely remembered himself when he was young, that sunny and optimistic boy. At that time, he looked forward to becoming a Hokage one day in the future to protect the village and villagers he loved. But now he has become an executioner with blood on his hands, and has become the enemy of the entire ninja world. He didn't know how to face himself like this, nor did he know how to make up for the mistakes he made in the past. At this moment, Uchiha Obito finally understood that the infinite moon reading he had been pursuing was not the real salvation, but a complete scam. Yunxiao just watched silently. Speaking of it, Obito, this silly boy, was also quite miserable. After being fooled by Uchiha Madara's words, the once sunny boy became a silly boy who was hostile to the world. After an unknown amount of time, Uchiha Obito stood up from the ground. He trembled with his hands and gently wiped away his tears. Then, he bowed to Yunxiao and said, "Thank you, boss, for telling me the truth." Uchiha Obito's voice was full of gratitude. This time, the tone of his voice was no longer imitating Madara's low voice, but restored to his original voice. Yunxiao smiled and said, "What are your plans now?" Obito raised his head, looked at Yunxiao and said seriously, "Boss, I want to atone for my previous wrongdoings. I want to revive my teacher and his wife." Yunxiao was immediately excited when he heard this. Reviving one person is 80 billion, two is 160 billion, and with Lin it is 240 billion taels. How much commission will he receive? Yunxiao laughed and patted Obito on the shoulder, praising him, "Good boy, it is a great virtue to correct your mistakes." Obito hurriedly said respectfully, "Thank you for your teachings, boss." At this time, Obito was full of awe for Yunxiao. In his eyes, Yunxiao was 100 times more powerful than the legendary six-path sage. Obito will be Yunxiao's big customer in the future. With his Mangekyo Sharingan, burglary is not as simple as drinking water. Yunxiao suddenly remembered that Black Zetsu's penetration technique is similar. Who can find it if he uses it to rob a bank? In fact, Black Zetsu was on his way to the bank just as Yunxiao thought. Yunxiao happily hugged Obito's shoulders and said earnestly, "Young man, fortunately there is still a chance to save all this. Although you are making money very slowly now. But when the time comes, you can revive your teacher first. With the speed of the yellow flash, I believe it won't take long to revive your master's wife." Obito's eyes lit up when he heard this. This boss is really a talent. It should be said that the boss's idea is really feasible. His teacher is the recognized yellow flash in the ninja world. With his flying thunder god, he can definitely make a lot of money by delivering takeout. Obito said excitedly, "Thank you for the advice, boss. I'll take my leave first." He bowed to Yunxiao again and left the store. Obito is Yunxiao's big customer, so naturally he has to send him off. Yunxiao stood at the door and said to Obito, "Young man, make money well and don't be cheated again." Obito nodded gratefully. After leaving the store, he did not rush to make money, but rushed towards the direction of Rain Village. He wanted to tell Nagato about this matter and couldn't let them make the same mistake again and again. Rain Village, Akatsuki Base. Orochimaru was sitting on the futon with his eyes closed in meditation, and Biwajuzo next to him looked at Orochimaru in surprise. There was a faint light on Orochimaru's abdomen. Although the light was very weak, it was very obvious in the dark Akatsuki base. After a long time, Orochimaru finished his meditation and slowly opened his eyes. Biwa-Juzang asked curiously, "Orochimaru, what was the light on your abdomen just now?" Hearing Biwa-Juzang's words, Orochimaru was surprised and said, "There was a light on my abdomen just now." "Yes, there was a faint light." Biwa-Juzang nodded. Orochimaru showed a touch of ecstasy on his face and smiled, "He. I didn't expect that I was gifted." As he said, he took out the Changshengju from his Taoist robe and flipped through it. The book says that this is a manifestation of spiritual energy entering the body. Orochimaru licked his lips excitedly, with excitement flashing in his eyes. Biwa-Juzang looked at the book in Orochimaru's hand curiously and asked in confusion, "Changshengju?" Corner. Red Sand Scorpion has come out of Feely Lake and is now sitting on the ground fiddling with his puppets. He is very satisfied with his work and can't help but nod in praise, only puppets are eternal art. And opposite Red Sand Scorpion, Kakuzu is constantly counting the 16 million taels in his hand, muttering, "When will the leader cash in the 100 million taels he promised to give me?" He complained while counting the money. This is the money earned by the fire country, and this is the money earned by the wind country. What's even more surprising is that Kakuzu actually remembers where the money piled up together came from. Walla. Kakuzu picked up the money and counted it again, as if counting it again would suddenly make more money. Red Sand Scorpion heard the noise and glanced at Kakuzu lightly. He didn't know how many times Kakuzu had counted the money, and his ears were almost worn out. Tap tap tap. Just then, the leader Pain and Conan walked into the room. Kakuzu saw Pain coming in and immediately stopped what he was doing. He asked impatiently, "Chief, when will you deliver the 100 million taels you promised me?" Orochimaru, who was reading a book, raised his head and licked his lips. "Chief, there is also my experimental funds." After that, Orochimaru lowered his head and continued to read. Pain had no expression on his face. He said lightly, "Don't worry, all this will be there." "Did you see Zetsu today?" Xiaonan asked. Everyone shook their heads. Who would care about that black pitcher plant? Seeing everyone shaking their heads, Xiaonan felt strange. Zetsu, who used to be available at any time, was not in the Akatsuki organization today. It was as if he had evaporated from the face of the earth. And the guy who called himself Madara was not here today. I wonder what the two of them are secretly plotting. Tap tap tap. A sound of footsteps came, and everyone looked at each other. Why would someone come to them? Everyone looked at the door curiously, and saw a hedgehog-headed man with half of his face disfigured walked in. Everyone looked at the newcomer with vigilance. They didn't expect that someone would dare to come to their Akatsuki organization. It seems that he is definitely a tough guy. Orochimaru was curious. Why did Uchiha come here? Pain stared at the newcomer. Although Obito was not wearing a mask now, he still recognized him at a glance. Afe, Pain asked. Afe is Obito's name in Akatsuki, but he has never appeared in front of everyone. Pain was very curious why this person who called himself Uchiha Madara didn't hide himself today. Obito looked at Pain with complicated eyes. Speaking of it, Nagato is much better than him. Although he was used by himself, Nagato's goal was to collect all the tailed beasts and ultimately achieve the effect of military deterrence, so that the major ninja villages would not dare to start a war at will. Obito was still laughing at Nagato's idea at the time. The law is too naive, and he didn't expect that he was the clown. Pain, the Moon Eye project is fake, I was used by someone. Obito said bitterly. Hearing this, everyone looked at Obito curiously. Pain didn't say anything, just looked at Obito quietly, and said after a long time, I know. Nagato never recognized Banara's Moon Eye project, the two of them just had a relationship of mutual use. Nagato even thought about turning against Banara, after gathering all the tailed beasts. Obito was a little surprised to see the reactions of Pain and others. Why didn't they feel shocked when they heard the news? When he heard it at that time, he felt like the sky had fallen. And why were they so calm? Pain seemed to see Obito's thoughts, and he said lightly, my goal has always been to achieve peace in the ninja world, and it has never been a Moon Eye project. Obito understood that he and Nagato were indeed in a relationship of mutual use, and both sides had been wary of each other. Speaking of which, why did you all join the organization? Biwa Juzo suddenly asked. I came because I lack a sense of belonging. Orochimaru put the book in his arms. The leader said he would give me experimental funds, so I came. Kakuzu grinned and said, the leader promised me 100 million if I joined the organization. Red Sand Scorpion raised his head and said lightly, because I was bored, I wanted to come and see. Obito was speechless. He was worried that these guys would get deeper and deeper for the fake infinite moon reading. But he didn't expect that he was the only one in the entire Akatsuki organization who believed in the Moon Eye project. Obito looked at this group of people, and the corners of his mouth twitched wildly. In short, they were all salted fish without a group of ambitions. Obito looked at Pain and said seriously, although the Moon Eye project is fake, there is a store on the border of the Fire Country. You can go and have a look. It will be of great help to you to realize your ideals. Hearing this, Orochimaru and Kakuzu subconsciously looked at Obito. They didn't expect that this guy had also met the boss. Biwa Juzo and Scorpion of the Red Sand became interested when they saw the reactions of Orochimaru and Kakuzu. Perhaps, all their secrets came from that store. The two of them had already made a note of it and were going to find some time to go and take a look. The border of the Land of Fire. I know, Pain said lightly. What are your plans now? Xiaonan asked curiously. Obito hesitated. I want to atone for the mistakes I made before. Neither Pain nor Xiaonan expected Obito to say this. Is this still the arrogant Madara before? It seems that after going to that store, he became like this now. Pain suddenly became interested. What did the owner of that store say to Madara that made him have such a huge change? I'll go to atone first, see you all. As he said that, Obito's body began to disappear. Everyone was a little surprised. They didn't expect that this person actually mastered space ninjutsu. After Obito left, Xiaonan looked at Pain beside him. Pain, what should we do now? Since he said that the store will help us realize our ideals, let's go and take a look. As he said that, Pain walked out of the base. Xiaonan nodded and followed Pain. After the two left, Scorpion suddenly put the puppet into the scroll, stood up and stretched. It's time to go out and move around. With that, Scorpion left the organization. Biwa Juzo looked at Orochimaru who was meditating, and then looked at Kakuzu who was counting money in the distance. He suddenly covered his stomach. Well, I feel a little uncomfortable in my stomach, I'll be back soon. As he said that, he ran out holding his stomach. At this time, Kakuzu and Orochimaru were the only two people left in the organization. Kakuzu stopped counting money and looked up at Orochimaru. Orochimaru, why don't you go? Orochimaru slowly opened his eyes. I don't have money. Kakuzu's mouth twitched, and Orochimaru simply said what he was thinking. Even though he still has more than 18 million in his hand, it is still far from enough. He regretted joining the Akatsuki organization a little, and felt that he was fooled by the leader. He had been in the organization for 2 days, and he hadn't seen a penny. How about we go out and make some money? Kakuzu asked tentatively. Orochimaru nodded after hearing this. That's what I meant. He also felt that Pain was making big promises for him. It would be better to go out with Kakuzu to make some money. After all, although the things in Yunshao are very good, they are ridiculously expensive. So, the two of them decided to go out and make some extra money. The Land of Fire, Konoha Village. The third-generation Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen walked into the Hokage building with a pipe in his mouth and a smile on his face. Today is such a good day. Today is the day to pay the Anbu salary. As a Hokage, every time he goes to the vault to get money, he will pocket some. After all, the Hokage has no other source of income except for that meager salary. It's impossible to let the Hokage go to the mission hall to accept missions like ordinary ninjas, right? So, apart from his meager salary, Hiruzen Sarutobi's income was the small amount of money he embezzled every time he entered the treasury and the gifts given by the major families on weekdays. However, what made Hiruzen Sarutobi unhappy was that among all the families in Konoha, only the Uchiha clan did not give him gifts. And the Hyuga clan, which was also another Ijutsu family, gave him many benefits. He had been in office for so many years, and the two clan leaders of the Uchiha clan had never given him gifts. The most hateful thing was that, not only did they not give him gifts, but they also acted like they were powerful on weekdays, especially when the Nine Tails Rebellion occurred. The pair of Sharingans on the eyes of the Nine Tails were definitely done by the Uchiha clan. But they still refused to admit it, which made Hiruzen Sarutobi very angry, but for the peace of the village he could only swallow his anger. So at the suggestion of his good friend Danzo, the Uchiha clan moved their clan land to the edge of the village. He, here comes the money. Sarutobi Hiruzen smiled and opened the door of the vault. The heavy iron door of the vault slowly opened, and Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes, which had been slightly narrowed, suddenly widened. When he looked at it yesterday, the money was still there. How come it was gone after one night? Ah! Sarutobi Hiruzen made a sharp explosion. Sarutobi Hiruzen's cry resounded throughout the Hokage building, and the surrounding Anbu heard the sound and rushed over. As soon as they entered the door, they saw Sarutobi Hiruzen lying on the ground, shouting sadly, "Where is my money? Where did such a large pile of money go? Anbu, who stole my money?" Sarutobi Hiruzen shouted in despair. The defense level of this vault is the highest. It stands to reason that no one except him can open it. Even if you want to force it open, it is impossible to do it silently. No one can do it except time and space ninjutsu. But in this ninja world, all those who know time-space ninjutsu should be dead. No matter who you are. Don't let me catch you. Sarutobi Hiruzen roared angrily. Soon, the news of the theft in the Hokage's office reached Shimura Danzo's ears. Root organization. Shimura Danzo gloated. Hiruzen is really stupid. The vault can be stolen. Let's see how he explains to the daimyo. Shimura Danzo has already thought about it. Even if Hiruzen comes to kneel down and beg him, he will never lend Hiruzen a penny. If the daimyo knows, he will definitely blame Hiruzen for not guarding well, and may cancel Hiruzen's position as Hokage. At that time, it will be his turn to become the Hokage of Konoha Dark. Shimura Danzo was excited just thinking about it. He opened the safe of the Root organization. He has made a lot of money from the Root organization over the years. At least he has 2 small goals. As for how much, he has not counted it carefully. He decided to open it now and count how much money there is in total, so that he can smooth the relationship and prepare to become the Hokage in the future. Creaky. The door of the safe opened, and Shimura Danzo's smile froze on his face. The safe that was supposed to be filled with banknotes was now empty, without even a hair. Shimura Danzo was so angry that his blood pressure soared instantly. Who is it? That fool. Shimura Danzo cursed. All of you go check it quickly. Even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground, you must get my money back. Yes. The people from the Root hurriedly left the Root after hearing this. Shimura Danzo was almost fainted by anger, and now he finally understood how Hiruzen felt at that time. He couldn't figure out what kind of thief was so bold that he dared to come to Konoha to steal his money. No matter who you are, don't let me catch you. Shimura Danzo gritted his teeth. If the Root who delivered the information was present, he would definitely be surprised, because what Danzo said was exactly the same as Hiruzen. Outside Konoha village, in the dark cave, hey, tens, hundreds, thousands, millions. A dark figure kept counting money. I didn't expect that he earned 1 billion taels in just one night. As expected of Konoha village, it's rich. Black Zetsu only went to 2 insurance pants and earned 1 billion. If he didn't move it one by one, he would definitely earn more. It seems that I have to trick that stupid boy Obito over. Black Zetsu muttered. The border of the land of fire. Is this the place? Pain muttered. His eyes were attracted by the words, omniscient and omnipotent, everything, written on the stone pillar. I wonder if there is a way to achieve peace in the ninja world. Pain said as he walked towards the store. Conan hurriedly followed Pain's footsteps. Inside the store. I wonder how long it will take for Obito and Black Zetsu to make so much money. Yunshao muttered. However, he felt that it would be easy to make so much money quickly with their abilities. One had a bug like Mangekyo, and the other could penetrate any object at will. For these 2 people, making money is as easy as drinking water, it's just a matter of time. Tap, tap, tap. Someone walked into the store. Yunshao turned his head and looked when he heard the sound, and his eyes widened immediately. Why are Pain and Conan here? Yunshao hurried forward and said cheerfully, do you 2 need anything? Pain looked at Yunshao curiously and found that he was just an ordinary boy, nothing special. AB+ level Samsara Eye has been detected. Please ask the host if the other party is interested in selling it. The purchase price is 35 million taels. The system's voice suddenly sounded. Yunshao's mouth twitched. Is there any need to ask this? How could Nagato sell it? But he still asked with a stiff upper lip, are you selling your Samsara Eye? Pain was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Yunshao to ask him such a question. Xiaonan behind him looked at Yunshao with an incredible look. Yunshao felt Xiaonan's gaze and scratched his head embarrassedly. Don't look at me like that. I'm willing to pay 35 million taels for it. Xiaonan's mouth twitched. Didn't she expect the Samsara Eye to be so worthless? No. Pain shook his head. Yunshao nodded. He knew the other party would say that. If it could be sold, it would be a miracle. He smiled and said, do you 2 need anything? I have everything here. Everything. Xiaonan was surprised. She didn't believe Yunshao's words from the bottom of her heart. How could she have everything? Pain also subconsciously looked at Yunshao. He also felt that Yunshao was bragging. Yunshao saw that the 2 did not believe him, so he patted his chest and guaranteed, you can ask for anything. As long as the money is in place, I will help you solve anything. Pain and Xiaonan looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. After a while, Pain tentatively said, "Do you have equipment to capture the tailed beasts here?" Yun Xiao smiled and said, "Of course, you wait." As he said that, he walked to a counter and took out a black square box. Pain was just asking casually. He didn't expect that the other party really had it. He curiously approached. Yun Xiao opened the box, and inside was a red and white round sphere. "This is a Pokeball, which can hold the tailed beasts," Yun Xiao said as he took the Pokeball in his hand. The two looked at the Pokeball in Yun Xiao's hand curiously. They didn't expect that such a small thing could seal the tailed beasts. "Do you want to buy it?" Yun Xiao asked. "How much?" "Not expensive, 5 million taels per ball." Pain nodded. It was indeed not expensive to sell 5 million taels for something that could seal the tailed beasts. "I want 9. Yun Xiao was overjoyed. Finally, a big customer came. He quickly took out 8 more Pokeballs and put them on the counter. Xiaonan took out a scroll and handed it to Yun Xiao. After confirming that it was correct, he put it into the system space. Both of them were a little shocked by Yun Xiao's methods. It seemed that the boss in front of them was not an ordinary person. After all, ordinary people would not dare to say that they wanted to buy his samsara eye in front of him. Yun Xiao rubbed his hands excitedly and said cheerfully, "Do you two need anything else?" Pain hesitated for a while before saying, "Boss, do you have any weapons that can bring world peace?" "What, nuclear peace?" Yun Xiao asked the system in his mind and got a positive answer, "Of course there is." As he said that, Yun Xiao's hand swept in the air, and then a blue screen appeared. Yun Xiao clicked the play button, and saw on the screen, an extremely huge missile fell rapidly from the sky, like the advent of the Last Judgment. Accompanied by a dazzling white light flashing in an instant, the once prosperous city below suddenly rose a huge mushroom cloud in the blink of an eye, as if the gate of hell was opened. The terrifying aftermath of the explosion spread outward at an alarming speed, affecting a radius of thousands of kilometers. As the billowing smoke and dust gradually dissipated, the originally prosperous and lively city had turned into a desolate ruin. Pain widened his eyes and stared at the city in the picture in disbelief. His heart was filled with shock and fear. This city, which was so large that it could even rival the entire Fire Country, turned into a lifeless ruin in a short period of time. At this time, the two people's worldview seemed to have suffered an unprecedented shock. They could not understand how this world could have such a terrifying power. Such a powerful weapon was beyond their imagination. When the video ended, the two were still immersed in deep shock and could not come back to their senses for a long time. Yun Xiao explained softly, "This is a 3-phase bomb. Not only is the explosion power extremely huge, but the places affected by the aftermath of the explosion will be contaminated by radiation. This radiation is extremely harmful to the human body. Once infected, life will enter a countdown, and the remaining days are numbered." Yun Xiao felt that this 3-phase bomb should be able to meet the requirements of the nuclear level of Nagato's world, right? After all, if a 3-phase bomb is launched, half of the ninja world will be finished. After hearing Yun Xiao's explanation, the two looked at Yun Xiao with fear. The boss in front of them said such horrifying words in such a calm tone. Yun Xiao saw that the two did not speak, and thought that they felt that the power of the 3-phase bomb was too small. He continued, "Do you think the power is too small? Don't worry, I have more powerful weapons." As he said, he was about to click on another video. Pain and Xiaonan were completely dumbfounded. There was actually a more powerful weapon. How powerful does this weapon have to be? After the two reacted, they hurriedly stopped Yun Xiao. "Boss, wait a minute." Yun Xiao stopped what he was doing and asked curiously, "Do you have any questions? Don't they like this kind of radioactive weapon?" Yun Xiao was ready to introduce other weapons to them. The two were speechless. What else is the problem? This problem is huge. Let's not talk about whether they can afford it or not. Even if they can afford it, will they dare to use it after buying it back? Don't you like weapons with radiation? Yun Xiao said, "I have other types of weapons here." Pain's head was shaking like a rattle. "Boss, I think this is too powerful." Yun Xiao finally realized that he had always thought that the other party felt that the power was not enough, but he didn't expect it to be too powerful. He smiled and said, "I also have a less powerful one." As he spoke, Yun Xiao played another video, in which a warhead much smaller than the 3-phase bomb fell from the sky. After the warhead fell, it immediately emitted a dazzling white light, and as a black mushroom cloud rose, the area of more than 20 kilometers around the center of the explosion instantly turned into ruins, and the aftermath only affected more than 100 kilometers before stopping. This is a nuclear bomb, how is it? Is the power much smaller? Yun Xiao said with a smile. Pain, what is the difference between this and the three-phase bomb just now? Oh, the difference is indeed quite big, because the power of the explosion is reduced by more than 10 times. With this nuclear bomb, the people in the ninja village will be turned into scum in an instant. To be honest, Pain was a little tempted. After all, as long as he casually destroyed a village, other villages would naturally be afraid after seeing the power of the nuclear bomb, and would not dare to start a war. Although a village was sacrificed, it brought peace to the entire ninja world. Anyway, the pronunciation of peace in the ninja world and nuclear peace in the ninja world are the same. As long as the world is peaceful, who cares whether it is peace or nuclear? Pain felt that this was much more convenient than collecting all the tailed beasts, and the power was stronger than the tailed beasts. After all, to catch the tailed beasts, you have to be enemies with all the ninja villages, which is thankless. In the end, even if you succeed, the effect is not as great as nuclear weapons. Seeing that Pain was tempted, Xiaonan wanted to persuade him, Pain. But when the words came to her lips, she swallowed them. Because this is a way to achieve peace in the ninja world. Although it may be a little cruel and require the sacrifice of a ninja village, the effect is definitely significant. Yun Xiao smiled and looked at the two and said, what do you think of this nuclear bomb? Pain nodded silently, indicating his approval, and then asked directly about the price, Boss, how much does this nuclear bomb cost? They started asking about the price directly, and it was obvious that they were already tempted. Yun Xiao suppressed his excitement and said with a smile, one nuclear bomb costs 10 billion. Hearing this price, the two fell silent instantly. They knew that nuclear bombs would be expensive, but they didn't expect them to be so expensive. But when they thought that this was a weapon that could bring world peace, it was natural that the price was beyond common sense. However, facing such a high price, they still felt embarrassed. After all, the wealth accumulated by their Akatsuki organization over the years was less than 1 billion, which was only equivalent to 1/10 of a nuclear bomb. In addition to the experimental fee promised to Orochimaru and the joining fee to Kakuzu, this was a huge expense. Otherwise, Pain would have given them the money long ago, and it wouldn't have taken so long. The two of them often said behind his back that he was just making empty promises. Now he finally knew why Kakuzu and Orochimaru always asked him for money. It turned out that the things here in Yun Xiao were so expensive. Yun Xiao saw that the two were troubled by the price and was afraid that they would give up. He quickly encouraged them, it's just 10 or 20 billion. With your strength, I believe you can earn it in a few years. Seeing the two looking at him, he continued, the future peace of the ninja world depends on you. Isn't this your dream all along? Now you can realize your dream with money. What are you still hesitating about? Hurry up and make money. The money in this world is limited. If you don't make money now, what will you do if all the money is earned by others? Hearing Yun Xiao's words, the two finally reacted. Pain quickly said, the boss is right, Xiaonan, let's go. Obviously, the two have been brainwashed by Yun Xiao. Wait a minute, Yun Xiao shouted quickly. The two who had just walked to the door stopped and looked at Yun Xiao curiously. Yun Xiao smiled and said, it's very inefficient to make money with a disabled body. Nagato. Ramen village. Somewhere in the Akatsuki base. Nagato, who was controlling Pain, suddenly widened his eyes. He didn't expect that the boss knew his true identity. Almost no one knew his identity, and he didn't think that Madara would tell the boss about it. He murmured, this boss is simply unfathomable. In the store, Xiaonan heard this, her eyes flashed with excitement, and she asked in a trembling voice, boss, can you cure Nagato's body? After knowing the power of this mysterious boss, Xiaonan subconsciously used honorifics to express her respect. Yun Xiao smiled slightly, of course. Then, he walked to the counter, reached out and touched it gently, and then took out a device that looked like a hibernation capsule. This device looked very high-tech, with a metallic luster on the surface, and the interior seemed to be filled with various complex instruments and equipment. Seeing this huge object that suddenly appeared, the two opened their mouths in shock. They really couldn't figure out how such a huge object was hidden in that small counter by Yunxiao. Seeing the two people's inexperienced looks, Yunxiao smiled and explained, "This is a treatment capsule. Just lie in it and it can automatically repair body damage." Hearing this, Xiaonan hurriedly looked at Pain and said anxiously, "Nagato, let's go and bring your body." When she learned that Nagato's body could be cured, Xiaonan was so excited. Because in order to save her, Yahiko died and Nagato's legs were disabled. This matter has always made Xiaonan feel guilty. She thinks that all this is caused by her. So after Yahiko's death, Nagato chose to turn evil. Nagato's ideals were contrary to Yahiko's original ideals, but Konan did not stand up to stop him, but silently supported Nagato's decision. After Nagato's legs were crippled, his chakra had to be supplied not only to the outer path demon statue, but also to the 6 paths of pain, which caused him to lack chakra all the time. Over time, his body became skinny, and Konan was sad every time he saw it. But fortunately, Nagato's body has the possibility of recovery. How could Konan not be excited about this? She was eager to cure Nagato's body. Pain saw Konan's excitement and nodded, "Okay." With that, the two left the store and headed to the rain village as quickly as possible. Yunxiao looked at the backs of the two people leaving, and sighed, "Am I also a dream-making master in the Naruto world?" Suddenly, Yunxiao saw movement in the bushes on both sides, and 2 sneaky figures were rushing towards his store. 2 figures suddenly jumped out of the bushes on both sides. They looked at each other and froze on the spot. "You went so far to the toilet," Scorpion of the Red Sand said with a smile. "Haha, I think the toilets in the Land of Fire are cleaner." Biwa Juzang laughed awkwardly. Yunxiao, he was confused. He didn't know what Biwa Juzang was talking about. The toilets in the Land of Fire are really clean. Scorpion of the Red Sand just chuckled, "Okay, let's go in and take a look." As he said that, he walked towards the store. Biwa Juzang scratched his head awkwardly and quickly followed. Yunxiao at the door saw the 2 people coming and showed a professional fake smile, "Welcome, both of you." As he said that, Yunxiao stepped aside and let the 2 people go in. The 2 looked at the dazzling array of goods around them and were shocked. They had never seen anything inside. "You two, please let us know if you have any requests. We have everything you want," Yunxiao said with a smile. Hearing this, Biwa Juzang looked at Yunxiao curiously, "Boss, do you have any powerful weapons here?" Detecting the C+ level beheading sword, "Please ask the host if the other party is interested in selling it. This system is willing to spend 3 million taels to buy it." After being rejected twice before, Yunxiao now knows how to increase the probability of successful acquisition. That is to bring out better weapons than him. Of course, Yunxiao showed a mysterious smile, turned around and walked behind the counter and began to search. After a while, he took out a red sword with a blood-colored gem inlaid on the handle. The blade flashed with cold light, as if it could devour all life. This weapon is called the Blood Demon Knife. It is made of a rare ore called blood iron ore, which only exists in very deep underground and is rare. After being carefully crafted by our blacksmith shop, this blood demon knife has a special ability. As long as it cuts the skin, the wound will not heal, no matter what treatment method is used. Yun Xiao's voice was low and full of temptation, as if he was showing a rare treasure to Biwa Juzang. However, Biwa Juzang was not as excited as Yun Xiao imagined. Instead, he shook his head repeatedly, with fear on his face. "This knife is too cruel. I can't use such a weapon." Yun Xiao saw this and his mouth twitched, but he quickly regained his composure. He shook his head helplessly, put the blood demon knife back on the counter, and then took out more than a dozen weapons of various types and placed them on the counter. Each weapon has a unique appearance and function. Some can release powerful power, while others can change their forms, which is dazzling. Yun Xiao introduced the characteristics and effects of these weapons one by one. Biwa Juzang was stunned and swallowed his saliva subconsciously. He had never seen such magical weapons. These weapons were beyond his cognition. Seeing that Biwa Juzang had no reaction, Yun Xiao asked, "Don't you like them?" "Don't worry, I have other ones here," Yun Xiao said while preparing to get other weapons. Biwa Juzang saw this and hurriedly stopped him. "Don't. Boss, I just asked casually." Biwa Juzang thought Yun Xiao's weapons were too scary. The weapons on the counter looked like monsters, and the breath they exuded made him feel creepy. Although he was a rebel ninja, he was not an unforgivable person. He felt that these weapons were not suitable for him. Yun Xiao nodded and didn't say anything. After all, people don't want to buy, you can't force them, right? Biwa Juzang subconsciously touched the beheading sword behind him. He felt that the beheading sword was the most suitable for him. Seeing Biwa Juzang lost the desire to buy, Yun Xiao looked at the red sand scorpion beside him. Customer, do you need anything? Do you have eternal art here? The red sand scorpion suddenly asked. Yun Xiao looked at Scorpion carefully, and he found that the red sand scorpion had made himself into a puppet at this time. This surprised him a little, but at the same time he also understood Scorpion's pursuit of eternal art. You made yourself into a puppet just to pursue eternity? Yun Xiao asked. The pupils of the red sand scorpion shrank sharply. He didn't expect that the boy in front of him actually knew about this. He was silent for a while, then nodded, indicating his acquiescence. Yun Xiao smiled and said, I think there is something that is quite suitable for you now. As he said that, he took out a robot from the counter. The red sand scorpion looked at the robot with a curious look on his face. He didn't know what this iron lump was. Could it be a new type of puppet? Flesh and blood are weak, and machinery rises. Yun Xiao said with a smile, and then disassembled the robot. It opened, revealing the metal structure inside. He explained to the red sand scorpion, since your body is already a puppet, I suggest you install a mechanical body directly on the original basis. This material can guarantee that it will not rust for tens of millions of years, and because it is not a physical body, as long as the main brain is not damaged, you will never die. In this way, you can not only achieve eternity, but also have more powerful strength and ability. The red sand scorpion heard Yun Xiao's words, and a flash of shock flashed in his eyes. He didn't expect that the boss had such a thing. But he still asked with some doubts, Boss, is this technology reliable? Will there be any side effects? Yun Xiao patted his chest and answered confidently, Don't worry, this technology is very mature, there will be absolutely no problems. The red sand scorpion fell into deep thought. He weighed the pros and cons. In the end, he decided to accept Yun Xiao's advice. After all, he has paid too much for the pursuit of eternity and doesn't want to miss any more opportunities. So, he nodded and said to Yun Xiao, Okay, I'm willing to try. Yun Xiao smiled and agreed. No problem, but the price is 30 million taels. Red Sand Scorpion nodded, then took out a scroll and handed it to Yun Xiao. After the system check was correct, Yun Xiao said happily, Then let's get started, but before that, I need to do some inspections and evaluations on your body to determine the most suitable mechanical body plan for you. As he said, Yun Xiao waved his hand gently, and with his movements, the surrounding counters suddenly began to sink, as if swallowed by the earth, disappearing without a trace. Then, a white workbench slowly rose from the ground and appeared in front of several people. Lie on it, this is a fully automatic transformation instrument. Red Sand Scorpion nodded slightly, and lay on it without hesitation. When Red Sand Scorpion lay down, the transformation instrument started immediately, making a slight buzzing sound. It began to quickly scan the scorpion's entire body and collect various physiological data. At the same time, a black glass cover slowly descended, completely covering the scorpion, forming a closed space. It was impossible to see what was inside. Then, under the horrified eyes of Biwa Juzo, the instrument sank into the ground. It was over, it was over, it was completely over. Biwa Juzo felt that the Red Sand Scorpion might have been fooled by the boss, and he was afraid that he might have been beaten to a pulp now. Thinking of this, he looked at Yun Xiao in fear and subconsciously took a few steps back. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.